others watched, but you stepped forward. I admire that. The first to cross my threshold deserves my full attention. Shall we begin? Such soft voices and bright eyes. You've all wandered far to find this place. Rest now, little fireflies. Let the tale unfold. How you doing? Are you guys having a good week? Poor Lechi, you have a headache. Make sure you get some rest. I know that you're probably going to be listening in, but make sure that you are hydrated. If you chug some water, cold water, you might actually feel a little bit better, because hydration is very important, even in colder weather, because then you don't realize that you're actually needing the hydration. And if the hydration's not quite working for you, then you can get some more like, what I kind of drink is I drink alkaline water, and typically water that is more hydrating than normal water, because I have a hard time actually absorbing water. So I will drink with more electrolytes or like alkaline water. You took an Advil? Yeah, I preemptively took some pain medicine this stream because I have been aching a lot lately. Anyway, hi, Scriptsune, your book reading kitsune here. We are going to end up doing the next Warriors series. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my day, and then we're going to talk about what I'm going to be doing with the book. So today I kind of just had a slow day, and I built a stair apparently, because for one of the people I'm working for, I had to build a stair, like that's a project. I also recently got a new chiropractor, and this is a little bit about how I've been aching a lot lately. My new chiropractor really loves to find the problem spots in my back, and they really love to get close and personal when cracking my back. And I have to tell you, the residual pain that I get every time this specific chiropractor cracks my back is insane. because like a day or two after, I end up having pain in the spot that he cracked. And so what I crack it up to, haha, pun intended, I put it to where it's like, okay, so I am a hypermobile person and my body is used to pulling on certain spots. So when my spine and my bones are actually correctly set, it causes pain. And that's what I think is happening, is that them being in the correct position is just not, you know, it hasn't, my muscles are like, this is not normal. And that's why it's causing the pain. Question of the day. Which of these Pokemon would only transform once it has found perfect happiness with you as its trainer? AKA evolved. Well, it is the anniversary of Pokemon. Well, so as someone that had never really played like the newer Pokemon generation to the point of extension of finding out which Pokemon actually evolve through happiness, I have no clue, because I played all the older Pokemon before that was a thing in the newer generations. So I am unsure of how to answer that question. You say Pikachu? But Pikachu, you give Pikachu a Thunderstone to evolve. Pikachu requires a stone. Not at first. I see. Lechi's headache has toned down, but it's a little well, if you are in a dark room, that should help as well. Because sometimes the light kind of just makes you strain your eyes. And that's kind of how, like, migraines are. Remember how Pichu evolved? It wasn't a stone. Well, yeah, that was like a level. Pichu was very easy to evolve. Extremely easy Pokemon to evolve. It literally just needed experience. Sylveon? Well, my favorite Pokemon is actually Lucario. And I don't say that as in like the actual game. I say that as in like I watched the first movie that Lucario came out from. And he was technically supposed to be a legendary, but then they made him very like, you know, they made him very common. Anyway, so I put it to a poll on which series that we needed to move on to. I gave everyone the choice of moving away from the Warriors for a little bit, but they actually said that they wanted me to continue on to the second series for Warriors instead of going to the Ranger's Apprentice books. So today we are going to be doing the New Prophecy, which is the second Warrior series. And so there's going to be 6 books in this series as well. And what I'm going to do is what I normally do. I'm going to tell you the snippet on the back. I will go through the clans, and then we will do the prologue and the chapters. And that's how I always start each book. So what I was looking at on this book, it seems like either Tiger Star's son, or in general, all the cats are going to be the main character rather than just one. I don't know yet. I've not read this, so we're gonna be finding out together which one of those it is. But the back says this: darkness, air, water, and sky will shake the forest to its roots. Brambleclaw, a warrior of ThunderClan, has received an ominous new prophecy from StarClan. that speaks of a mysterious danger. Now he will need the courage of the greatest warriors to save the clans. So with this back snippet is why it makes me think that the main character in this series is actually going to be Brambleclaw, which, as we know, is Tiger Claw's son. So, if you are also interested in the map for the book, I don't know why, but it's the exact same stupid map. They do not take in any opportunities to change this map. So the same map is going to be in the link in the pin if you want to look at the Warriors world, so that you can kind of get an idea of what we're doing with the cats, kind of like in the first series. Also, we have made over 50 followers as of 2 streams ago, so congrats, guys. And I also have decided for the little mini micro building things, like the little cupcakes and the moons, I'm going to be doing one of those after every series ends, or if I need a break / am sick. That way I have a little bit of leeway when it comes to having to read, because if I am sick and it affects my voice, I can't exactly read sentence after sentence. It would be very non-kosher of me, because you would be able to tell I was sick and I would not be able to read very much. So I think me taking those micro mini blocks and doing that when I'm sick, and also at the end of the entire series, kind of gives me a break and some leeway. So let's go through here. Is it going to? Oh, it has a new text base. Okay. Let me take out the bookmark. All right, allegiances. ThunderClan has the leader of Firestar, and of course we all remember Firestar, which was the main character of the previous series for Warriors. And as this is the first time we are going through the allegiances for this series, I will go and actually do all the details of each one. So, leader, Firestar, Ginger Tom with a flame-colored pelt. Deputy, Graystripe, long-haired Gray Tom. Medicine Cat, Cinderpelt, dark gray she-cat with the apprentice of Leafpaw. It looks like we're already getting a little bit of a snippet of what's happened between the last series and this series. Warriors, Toms and she-cats without kits. Mousefur, small dusty brown she-cat, apprentice Spiderpaw. Well, that's a new name. Haven't seen that one. Dustpelt, dark brown tabby Tom with the apprentice of Sorrowpaw. Cloudtail, long-haired white Tom. Brackenfur, golden brown tabby Tom with the apprentice of Whitepaw. Thornclaw, golden brown tabby Tom with the apprentice of Shrewpaw. So there is a lot of new names here when it comes to the apprentices. So there has to be a lot of new births since the last series. Brightheart, white she-cat with ginger patches. So I see that they do not mention Brightheart's scarring here. Brambleclaw, dark brown tabby Tom with amber eyes. Ashfur, pale gray with darker flecks, Tom with dark blue eyes. Rain Whisker, dark gray Tom with blue eyes. Sootfur, lighter gray Tom with amber eyes. So you see, they even have a couple of warriors that are new. Let's see. Queens, golden flower, pale ginger coat, the oldest nursery queen. Fern cloud. That's a new queen that we haven't heard of. Pale gray with darker flecks, she cat with green eyes. Elders. Former warriors and queens now retired. Frost fur. Beautiful white she cat with blue eyes. Dappletail. Once pretty tortoiseshell she cat, the oldest cat in ThunderClan. Speckletail. Pale tabby she cat. Longtail. Pale tabby tom with dark black stripes. Retired early due to failing sight. Oh, they actually gave us a little bit there. I am seeing a lot of new names. So it has to have been like at least half a year between the two series, if you consider how long it takes cats to birth new cats and for how long they train them. So it's a little bit of a leap. A little bit of a leap. Okay, we're moving on to ShadowClan. ShadowClan with the leader of Black Star. Large white tom with huge jet black paws. Deputy, russet fur. Dark ginger she-cat. Medicine cat, little cloud, very small tabby tom. So I see already that the medicine cat has changed in ShadowClan. And russet fur is a new name to me, unless it's one of the ones that I glossed over in one of the other books, because we haven't really heard much from any of the other clan cats, except for like the main ones of the leaders. Warriors. Oak fur, small brown tom with the apprentice of Smokepaw. Tawny pelt. Tortoiseshell she-cat with green eyes. So we remember Tawny pelt as one of Tiger Claw's or Tiger Star's kits. Cedar heart, dark gray tom. A rowan claw, ginger she-cat with the apprentice of Talonpaw. Tall poppy, long-legged light brown tabby she-cat with the elders of Running Nose. Small gray and white tom, formerly the medicine cat. See, okay, that's where the medicine cat went. He retired, okay. Moving on to Wind Clan. The leader of Tall Star, elderly black and white tom with a very long tail. You see, Tall Star is actually older than Running Nose, so wow, he's probably gonna switch to the Elder's Den at some point, considering I don't know if the leaders actually ever go to the Elder's Den, because it has never mentioned it in the previous series. So maybe we'll see that in this series. Maybe we'll see if either they have to live out their entire life as leader, or if they actually get to retire. The deputy is Mudclaw, mottled dark brown tom with the apprentice of Crowpaw. Dark smoky gray, almost black tom with blue eyes. Medicine cat is Barkface, short-tailed brown tom. Warriors, One Whisker, brown tabby tom. Webfoot, dark gray tabby tom. Torn ear, tabby tom. Whitetail, small white she-cat. Morning flower, tortoiseshell she-cat. Wow, they really they really cut down on the details when it comes to the other clans. River Clan. Leader, Leopard Star. Unusually spotted golden tabby she-cat. So I'm thinking that she's like one of the rarer types of cats. I'm trying to recall what it is. It's gosh. I know it's the breed that looks like a small leopard. I can't quite recall what it's called right now, but my uncle had like 2 of them. I'm thinking that's what Leopard Star is probably, because it's unusual pattern for a house cat. The deputy is Mistyfoot, gray she-cat with blue eyes. Now you see, Mistyfoot being the deputy is very sad because if you were here for the previous series, you would know that Mistyfoot is only deputy because her brother died. The medicine cat, Mudfur, long-haired light brown Tom, the apprentice of Mothwing, beautiful golden tabby she-cat with amber eyes. Warriors, Black Claw, Smoky Black Tom. Heavy Step, thickest tabby Tom. What do you mean thick-set tabby Tom? Must be like a very thick-boned cat, I'm assuming. Stormfur, dark gray Tom with amber eyes. Feathertail, light gray she-cat with blue eyes. Hawkfrost, broad-shouldered dark brown Tom. Mosspelt, tortoiseshell she-cat. But the queen of Dawnflower, pale gray she-cat, and the elders of Shadepelt, very dark gray she-cat, and Loudbelly, dark brown Tom. And then it shows here the outside cats. Barley, black and white Tom, that lives on a farm close to the forest. Ravenpaw, sleek black cat that lives on the farm with Barley. There is actually a new mention here for an outside cat. Purdy, elderly tabby Tom that lives in the woods near the sea. Now, I don't think that I have seen the sea on this map. Yeah, I don't see the sea anywhere on this map. So I'm going to assume with that information that possibly they are going to actually travel off of the map. So now that we have done the snippet on the back and we have done all of the allegiances, we are going to move on to the prologue so we can kind of get a gist of what's going to happen in this book. This is something I haven't got to read yet, so we are going to experience this together. Prologue. Night lay upon the forest. There was no moon, but the stars of Silverpelt shed their frosty glitter over the trees. At the bottom of a rocky hollow, a pool reflected the starshine. The air was heavy with the scent of late greenleaf. Wind sighed softly through the trees and ruffled the quiet surface of the pool. At the top of the hollow, the fronds of bracken parted to reveal a cat. Her bluish-gray fur glimmered as she stepped delicately from rock to rock, down to the water's edge. Sitting on a flat stone that jutted out over the pool, she raised her head to look around. As if at a signal, more cats began to appear, slipping into the hollow from every direction. They padded down to sit as close to the water as they could, until the lower slopes were filled with the lithe shapes of gazing down into the pool. The cat who had appeared first rose to her paws. "Hi, Husky." "Thanks." "A new prophecy has come," she meowed. "A doom that will change everything has been foretold in the stars." "Thank you for the lurk." On the opposite side of the pool, another cat bowed his tawny, bracken-colored head. "I have seen this too." "There would be doubt and a great challenge," he agreed. "Darkness, air, water, and sky will come together and shake the forest to its roots." The first cat went on. "Nothing will be as it is now, nor as it has been before." A great storm is coming, meowed another voice. And the word storm was taken up, repeated and passed around the circle until it seemed that thunder rumbled through the ranks of watching cats. As the murmur died away, a lean cat with a glossy black pelt spoke from near the water's edge. Can nothing change what is about to happen? Not even the courage and spirit of the greatest warrior? The doom will come, the blue-gray she-cat replied. But if the clans meet it like warriors, they may survive. Lifting her head, she let her luminous gaze travel around the hollow. You have all seen what must befall, she meowed. And you know what must be done. 4 cats must be chosen to hold the fate of their clans in their paws. Are you ready to make your choices before all of StarClan? As she finished speaking, the surface of the pool shivered, though there was no wind to disturb it. Then was still again. The bracken-colored Tom rose to his paws, starlight turning the fur on his broad shoulders to silver. I will begin, he meowed. He glanced sideways to meet the gaze of a light-colored tabby with a twisted jaw. Crooked Star, do I have your permission to speak for RiverClan? The tabby bowed his head in agreement. And the first cat went on. Then I invite you all to see and approve my choice. He stared down into the water, as motionless as the rocks around him. A pale gray blur appeared on the surface of the pool, and all the cats craned forward to see it more clearly. That one? Murmured the blue-gray cat, staring at the shape in the water. Are you sure, Okar? I have to comment on this. These are names of dead cats, so I assume what we are seeing is actually StarClan coming together for this prophecy. It's actually very interesting. I just wanted to comment that. The tip of the bracken-colored Tom's tail flicked back and forth. I thought that choice would please you, Blue Star. He meowed, amusement in his tone. Do you not think she was well mentored? She was excellently mentored. Blue Star's neck fur rose, as if he had said something to challenge her, then lay flat again. Does the rest of StarClan agree? She asked. A murmur of assent rose from the watching cats, and the pale gray shape thinned and vanished from the water, leaving it clear and empty again. Now the black cat stood up and padded to the very edge of the pool. Here is my choice, he announced. See and approve it. This time, the shape in the pool was tawny-colored and lean, with strong, well-muscled shoulders. Blue Star gazed down at the image for some moments before nodding. She has strength and courage, she agreed. But Night Star, does she have loyalty? Called another cat. Black Cat's head whipped around, and his claws dug into the ground in front of him. Are you calling her disloyal? If I do, there's a reason for it. The answer was shot back. She was not born in ShadowClan, was she? So, the 2 cats that have been picked so far, I think is the deputy of RiverClan and then also the daughter of Tiger Star. And that is why they're questioning the loyalty. Because we all know that Tawny Paw was Tiger Star's kid and had left ThunderClan to join him in ShadowClan. And that could make her the choice. Bluestar meowed calmly. If the clans cannot work together now, they will all be destroyed. Maybe it will take cats with a paw and 2 clans to understand what has to be done. She paused for a moment, but no other objections were forthcoming. Does Star Clan approve? There was some hesitation, but it was not too long before soft meows of agreement came from the assembled cats. The surface of the pool rippled briefly, and when it stilled again, the tawny shape had gone. Another black cat got up and approached the water's edge, limping on one stubby, twisted paw. My turn, I think, he rasped. See and approve my choice. The gray-black shape that formed in the pool was hard to see against the reflection of the night sky, and the cats peered at it for some time before anyone spoke. What? The bracken-colored cat exclaimed at last. That's an apprentice! I had noticed. Thank you, Oakheart. The black Tom meowed dryly. Deadfoot, you can't send an apprentice into danger such as this. Another cat called from the back of the crowd. Apprentice he may be, Deadfoot retorted, but he has courage and skill to match many warriors. One day, he might make a fine leader of WindClan. One day is not now, Bluestar pointed out. And the qualities of a leader are not necessarily those that the clans need to save them now. Do you wish to make another choice? Deadfoot's tail lashed furiously, and his neck fur bristled as he glared at Bluestar. This is my choice, he insisted. Do you, or any other cat, dare to say he is not worthy? What do you say? Your gaze went around the circle. Does Star Clan approve? Remember that every clan would be lost if one of our chosen cats should weaken or fail. Instead of a murmur of approval, the cats muttered at each other in small groups, casting uneasy glances at the shape in the pool and at the cat beside it. Deadfoot stared back with fury in his eyes. His fur fluffed up so that he looked twice his size. He was obviously ready to take on any cat who challenged him. At length, the muttering died away, and Bluestar asked once again, does the clan approve? The assent came, but it was low and reluctant, and a few cats did not speak at all. Deadfoot let out an ill-tempered growl as he turned and limped back to his place. When the water was clear again, Oakheart meowed. You have not yet made your choice for ThunderClan, Bluestar. No, but I am ready now, she replied. See and approve my choice. She gazed down proudly as a dark tabby shape formed in the depths of the pool. Oakheart stared at it and stretched his jaws wide in a soundless mew of laughter. That one? Bluestar, you never cease to surprise me. Why? Bluestar's tone showed she was nettled. He's a noble young cat, fit for the challenges this prophecy will bring. Oakhart's ears twitched. Did I say he was not? Bluestar held his gaze, not looking at the other cats as she demanded, "Does the clan approve?" When the agreement came, strong and certain, she gave Oakhart a contemptuous flick of her tail and looked away. "Cats of Star Clan," she meowed, raising her voice. "Your choices have been made. Soon, the journey must begin. To meet the terrible storm that will be released on the forest. Go to your clans and make sure each cat is ready." She paused and her eyes blazed with a fierce silver light. "We can choose a warrior to save each clan, but beyond that, we cannot help them. May the spirits of all our warrior ancestors go with these cats, wherever the stars may lead them." And that is the end of the prologue. I'm gonna take a quick break before we actually start the chapters, but it is shaping up to be pretty interesting. I wonder what kind of storm they mean, considering the type of stuff that happened in the last book with the dogs and other cats coming in to try and take over the forest. Be right back. I'm back. I just wanted to use the restroom before we started getting into things with all the chapters. So we are doing chapter 1 through 5 today. I hope you guys are intrigued as I am. To think that they're doing Tiger Claw's son, there's gonna be a lot of challenges, and I think that's why they chose him as the main character for this series. Because we all know what happened with, Firestar in the previous one, as being a kitty pet. And since he's a son of a traitor, well, we can see that there's gonna be some difficulties, just like Firestar had. Alright, let's go ahead and get into things. Chapter 1. Leaves rustled as the young tabby cat slid through a gap between two bushes, his jaws wide open to drink in the scent of prey. On this warm night in Lake Greenleaf, the forest was full of scuffles of tiny creatures. Movements twitched endlessly at the edge of his vision. But when he turned his head, he could see nothing but the thick clumps of fern and bramble, dappled with moonlight. Suddenly, he stepped out into a wide clearing and gazed around in confusion. He could not remember being in this part of the forest before. Smooth cropped grass, glowing silver in a cold wash of moonlight, stretched in front of him as far as a softly rounded rock where another cat was sitting. Starlight sparkled in her fur, and her eyes were two small moons. The young tabby's bewilderment increased as he recognized her. Blue Star? He meowed, his voice shrill with disbelief. He had been an apprentice when the great leader of ThunderClan had died, 4 seasons ago, leaping into the gorge with a pack of blood-hungry dogs after her. Oh, so it's actually a little bit longer than I thought. 4 seasons, that's a full year, not 6 months. Like all her clan, he had grieved for her and honored her for the way she had given up her life to save them. He had never thought to see her again, and he realized for the first time that he must be dreaming. Come closer, young warrior, Blue Star meowed. I have a message for you. Shivering with awe, the tabby Tom crept across the shining stretch of turf until he crouched below the rock and could look up into Blue Star's eyes. I'm listening, Blue Star, he mewed. A time of trouble is coming to the forest, he told him. A new prophecy must be fulfilled if the clans are to survive. You have been chosen to meet with 3 other cats at the new moon, and you must listen to what midnight tells you. What do you mean? The young cat felt a prickle of dread, cold as snow melt, creep down his spine. What kind of trouble? And how can midnight tell us anything? All will be made clear to you, Blue Star replied. Her voice faded, echoing strangely, as if she were speaking from a cabin far beneath the earth. The moonlight also began to grow dim, leaving thick black shadows to creep out of the trees around them. No, wait! The tabby cat cried out. Don't go! He let out a terrified yowl, thrashing his paws and tail, as the darkness rose up and engulfed him. Hi, Holy, welcome in. Something poked him in the side. What a good Holy. I'm sorry, I had to. Let me reread that. He let out a terrified yowl, thrashing his paws and tail as darkness rose up and engulfed him. Something poked him in the side, and his eyes flew open to see Greystripe, the ThunderClan deputy. I'll click you. No, you won't. Standing over him with one paw raised to prod him again. He was scuffling among the moss in the warrior's den, with the golden sunlight leaking through the branches above his head. Brambleclaw, you crazy furball, the deputy meowed. What's all this noise about? You scare off all the prey here in the 4 trees. Sorry. Brambleclaw sat up and began picking scraps of moss from his dark fur. I was just dreaming. Dreaming? Grunted a new voice. Brambleclaw turned his head to see the white warrior Cloudtail heave himself out of the mossy nest nearby and give a long stretch. Honestly, you're as bad as Firestar, Cloudtail went on. When he slept in here, he was always muttering and twitching in his sleep. A cat couldn't get a good night's rest for all the prey in the forest. Brambleclaw twitched his ear to hear how disrespectfully the white warrior spoke about the clan leader. Then he reminded himself that this was Cloudtail, Firestar's kin and former apprentice. well known for his barbed tongue and ready scorn. His impudent talk didn't stop him from being a loyal warrior to his clan. I am hearing cats outside very angry. I heard that through my headset. I wonder if you guys hear that. Huh. I don't think you guys can hear it. Clouto gave his long furred white coat a shake and slipped out of the den, flicking the end of his tail at Brownmaclaw in a friendly way to take the sting out of his words as he went by. "Come on, you lot," meowed Greystripe. "It's time you were moving." He picked his way through the moss on the floor of the den to prod Ashfur awake. Hunting patrols will be going out soon. Brackenfur is organizing them. Right, Brownmaclaw mused. His vision of Bluestar was fading, though her message, ominous, echoed in his ears. Could it really be true that there is a new prophecy from StarClan? It seemed fairly unlikely. For a start, Brownmaclaw could not imagine why she would choose to give it to him. Of all the cats in ThunderClan, medicine cats frequently receive signs from StarClan, and ThunderClan's leader, Firestar, had often been guided by his dreams. But they were not for ordinary warriors. Trying to blame his wild imaginings on too much fresh kill the night before, Brownmaclaw gave his shoulder one last lick and followed Cloudtail out through the trailing branches. The sun was barely up above the hedge of thorns that surrounded the camp, but the day was already warm. Sunlight lay like honey on the bare earth in the center of the clearing. Soropaw, the oldest of the apprentices, lay stretched out beside the ferns that sheltered the apprentices' den, sharing tongues with their den mates, Spiderpaw and Shrewpaw. Clouter had gone over to the nettle patch where the warriors ate, and was already gulping down a starling. Brownmaclaw noticed that the pile of fresh kill was very low. As Greystripe had said, Clan needed to hunt right away. He was about to go and join the White Warrior when Soropaw sprang up and came bounding across the clearing towards him. "It's today," she announced excitedly. Brownmaclaw blinked. "What is?" "My warrior ceremony." With a little meow of happiness, the tortoiseshell she-cat hurled herself at Brownmaclaw. The unexpected attack bowled him over, and they wrestled together on the dusty ground, just as they used to when they were kits together in the nursery. Soropaw's hind paws battered Brownmaclaw in the belly, and he thanked StarClan that her claws were sheathed. There was no doubt that she would make a strong and dangerous warrior, one that every cat would respect. All right, that's enough." Brownmaclaw cuffed Soropaw gently over one ear and scrambled up. "If you're going to be a warrior, you have to stop behaving like a kid." "A kid?" Soropaw meowed indignantly. She sat in front of him, her fur sticking up in clumps and covered with dust. "Me? Never. I've waited a long time for this, Brownmaclaw." "I know. You deserve it." Soropaw had ventured too close to the Thunderpath while she was chasing a squirrel in New Leaf. A two-legged monster had struck her a glancing blow, injuring her shoulder. While she lay in Cinderpelt's den for 3 long, uncomfortable moons, under the gentle care of the medicine cat, her brothers, Sootfur and Rainwhisker, had become warriors. Soropaw had been determined to follow them as soon as Cinderpelt declared her fit to begin training again. Brownmaclaw had watched how hard she worked with her mentor, Sandstorm, until her shoulder was good as new. She had never shown any bitterness at being forced to train for several moons longer than the usual apprenticeship. She really deserved her warrior ceremony. I've just taken fresh kill to Ferncloud, she meowed to Brambleclaw. Her kits are beautiful. Have you seen them yet? No, not yet, Brambleclaw replied. Ferncloud's second litter of kits had been born only the day before. Go now, Soropaw urged him. You've just enough time before we hunt. She sprang up and danced a few steps sideways, as if all her energy had to go somewhere. Brambleclaw set off for the nursery, which was hidden in the depths of a bramble thicket near the center of the camp. He squeezed through the narrow entrance, wincing as thorns scraped against his broad shoulders. Inside, it was warm and quiet. Ferncloud was lying on her side in a deep nest of moss. Her green eyes glowed as she gazed at the 3 tiny kits curled up snugly in the curve of her body. One was pale gray like her. The other 2 brown tabbies like their father, Dustpelt. He was in the nursery too, crouched beside Ferncloud with his paws tucked under him, occasionally rasping his tongue affectionately over her ear. Hi there, Brambleclaw, he meowed as the younger warrior appeared. Come to see the new kits? He looked ready to burst with pride, quite different from his usual prickly, detached air. They're beautiful, Brambleclaw mewed, touching noses with Ferncloud in greeting. Have you chosen names for them yet? Ferncloud shook her head, blinking drowsily up at him. Not yet. There's time enough for that. Goldenflower, oldest ThunderClan queen, and Brambleclaw's own mother, spoke from her mossy bed. She had no kits of her own to nurse, but she had decided to stay in the nursery and share the care of the new arrivals instead of taking up her warrior duties again. She was nearing the time when she would go to join the elders in their den, and was the first to admit that her hearing and eyesight were no longer sharp enough to keep up with the best hunting patrols. They're strong, healthy kits. That's what matters. And Ferncloud has plenty of milk. Brambleclaw respectfully dipped his head to her. She's lucky to have you to look after them. Well, I didn't do too bad of a job with you, Goldenflower purred proudly. There's something you could do for me, Dustpelt meowed to Brambleclaw as he was leaving. Sure, if I can. Keep an eye on Squirrelpaw, would you? I want to spend a day or 2 with Ferncloud, while the kids are still so small. But Squirrelpaw shouldn't be left without a mentor for too long. Squirrelpaw, Brambleclaw groaned inwardly. Firestar's daughter, 8 moons old, recently apprenticed. And the biggest nuisance in ThunderClan. Well, I guess we know who's gonna end up falling in love with Brambleclaw. I'm sorry, I can't help but point that out. It's just... It seems like something that the author might do. Okay, so back to reading. I'm sorry. It'll be good practice for when you have an apprentice of your own, Dustpelt added, as if he sensed his clanmate's reluctance. Brambleclaw knew that Dustpelt was right. He hoped that Firestar would choose him to be a mentor before much longer, with an apprentice of his own to train in the warrior code. But he also hoped that his apprentice would not be some smart aleck ginger she-cat who thought she knew it all. He was well aware that Squirrelpaw would not take kindly to orders coming from him. Okay, Dustpelt, he meowed. I'll do my best. When Brambleclaw emerged from the nursery, he saw more cats had appeared in the clearing. Brightheart, a pretty white she-cat with ginger patches on her fur, like fallen leaves, had just chosen a piece of fresh kill from the remains of the pile and was taking it across to where Cloudtail still sat by the nettle patch. The uninjured side of her face was turned to Brambleclaw, so that he could almost forget the disfiguring wounds she had received when the dog-pack roamed the forest. One side of her face was seamed with scars, and the ear had been shredded. There was only a gouged mark where her eye should be. Even though she survived this vicious attack, the clan had feared that she would never be a warrior. It was Cloudtail who had trained with her and worked out ways of making up for her blindness on that side, even turning it into a strength, so that now she could fight and hunt as well as any cat. Cloudtail greeted her with a flick of his tail, and she sat beside him to eat. Brambleclaw, there you are. Brambleclaw turned and saw a long-legged ginger warrior heading toward him from the direction of the warrior's den. He padded over to meet him. Hi, Brackenfur. Greystripe said you're organizing hunting patrols. That's right, Brackenfur meowed. We go out with Squirrelpaw this morning, please. He angled his ears towards the apprentice's den, and Brambleclaw noticed for the first time that Squirrelpaw was half concealed in the shade of ferns. She sat tall, her tail curled around her paws, her green eyes following a bright-winged butterfly. When Brackenfur beckoned her with his tail, she got up and strolled across the clearing, her tail straight up and her dark ginger fur gleaming in the sunlight. Hunting patrol, Brackenfur explained briefly. Duskpelt is busy, so you can go with Brambleclaw. Can you find another cat to go with you? Without waiting for an answer, he hurried off towards Sandstorm and Squirrelpaw. Squirrelpaw yawned and stretched. Well, she meowed, where shall we go? I thought Sunning Rocks, Brambleclaw began. Then we can... Sunning Rocks? Squirrelpaw interrupted, her eyes stretching wide in disbelief. Are you mouse-brained? On a day as hot as this, all the prey will be hiding down cracks. You won't catch so much as a whisker. It's still early, Brambleclaw replied crossly. The prey will be out for a while yet. Squirrelpaw let out a heavy sigh. Honestly, Brambleclaw, you always think you know better than anyone else. Well, I am a warrior, Brambleclaw pointed out, and knew instantly it was the wrong thing to say. Squirrelpaw bowed her head in deep, exaggerated respect. Yes, oh great one, she meowed. I shall do exactly what you say, and when we come back empty-pawed, maybe you'll admit that I was right. Well then, Brambleclaw mewed. If you're so clever, where do you think we should hunt? Up toward 4 trees by the stream, Squirrelpaw replied promptly. That's a much better place. Brambleclaw was even more annoyed when he realized she might be right. In spite of endless hot days that had lasted all Greenleaf, the stream there still ran cool and deep with thick clumps of reeds where prey could hide. He hesitated, wondering how he could change his mind without losing face in front of the apprentice. Squirrelpaw, a new voice rescued him, and Brambleclaw realized it was Sandstorm, Squirrelpaw's mother, had padded over to join them. Stop ruffling Brambleclaw's fur. You chatter as much as a nest of jackdaws. Her annoyed green gaze turned on Brambleclaw, and she added, and you're just as bad. The pair of you always squabbling. You can't be trusted to hunt together if you can't even get out of the clearing without scaring half the prey between here and 4 trees. Sorry, Brambleclaw muttered, embarrassment sweeping through his fur from ears to tail tip. You're a warrior. You should know better. Go and ask Cloudtail if you can hunt with him. And as for you, Sandstorm meowed to her daughter, you can come and hunt with me and Soropaw. Brackenfur won't mind. And you'll do as you're told, or I'll know the reason why. Without looking back, he headed straight for the gorse tunnel that led out of the camp. Squirrelpaw stood still for a moment, a sulky look in her green eyes, and scuffed the ground with her forepaws. Soropaw came up and gave her a friendly nudge. Come on, she urged. This is my last hunt as an apprentice. Just make it a good one. Reluctantly, Squirrelpaw nodded, and the two cats set off together after Sandstorm. The dark ginger apprentice shot a last glare at Brambleclaw as she passed him. Brambleclaw shrugged. Squirrelpaw would get more experience mentoring from Sandstorm than she would from him. So he wasn't letting Dustpelt down, even though the warrior had asked him to keep an eye on her. And he wouldn't have to listen all morning to her annoying chatter. So he wasn't sure why he felt slightly disappointed at being set on a different patrol. Pushing off the feeling, he bounded over to the nettle patch, where Cloudtail and Brightheart were finishing their prey. Their single kit, Whitepaw, had just padded across to join them. As Brambleclaw came up, he heard her say, Are you going hunting? Please, can I come with you? Cloudtail flicked his tail. No. Whitepaw had begun to look disappointed when he added, Brackenfur said he'd take you. He is your mentor, after all. He told me he's really proud of you, Brightheart purred. Whitepaw brightened up. Great! I'll go find him. Cloudtail gave her an affectionate cuff over the ear with one paw before she dashed off, her tail waving excitedly. Brambleclaw hoped that didn't mean that Cloudtail and Brightheart wanted to go out alone. Do you mind if I join you? He asked. Sure, you can come, Cloudtail replied. He jumped up and nodded to Brightheart. Then the three cats trotted together across the clearing towards the gorse tunnel. Just before he headed into the close growing thorns, Brambleclaw glanced over his shoulder at the quiet activity going on in the camp. Every cat looked well fed, sleek-furred and confident that the territory was safe. Bluestar's message came back to echo in his mind. Could it be true that some great trouble was coming upon the forest? Brambleclaw felt his fur prickle with foreboding. He decided that he would not tell any cat about the dream. That seemed like the only way he could convince himself that it meant nothing. And there was no new prophecy coming to disrupt life in the forest as they knew it. The sun was setting in a ball of fire, turning the tops of trees to flame and sending long shadows across the clearing. Brambleclaw stretched and sighed with satisfaction. He was tired after the long day's hunting, but his stomach was comfortably full. All the clan had been fed, too, and there was an ample pile of fresh kill. Greenleaf had been longer and hotter than any cat could remember, but the forest was still full of prey, and there was plenty of water in the stream close to 4 trees. A good day, Brambleclaw thought contentedly. This is how life should be. The rest of the clan was beginning to slip out into the clearing and gather around the high rock, and Brambleclaw realized it was time for Sorapaw's warrior ceremony. He padded closer to the high rock and sat down close to Ferncloud's brother, Ashfur, who gave him a friendly nod. Graystripe was already sitting at the base of the rock, looking as proud as if his own apprentice were about to be made a warrior. Graystripe had fathered 2 kids, but they had grown up in RiverClan, where their mother had been born. He had no kids in ThunderClan, but liked to keep an eye on the progress of all the young cats. As Brambleclaw watched, the deputy joined by Cinderpelt, the medicine cat, and her apprentice Leafpaw, Squirrelpaw's sister. She looked nothing like Squirrelpaw. She was smaller and slighter, with pale tabby fur and white chest and paws. The sisters were not much alike in character either. When Leafpaw sat down and tipped her head to one side to listen to what her mentor and deputy were saying to each other, Brambleclaw wondered, not for the first time, how she managed to be so quiet and attentive when his sister Squirrelpaw never stopped talking. At last, Firestar, the clan leader, appeared from his den at the other side of the high rock. He was a strong, lithe warrior, his pelt blazing like flame in the light of the setting sun. After pausing for a word with Graystripe, he bunched his muscles and leaped to the top of the high rock, from where he could look down on the clan. "Cats of ThunderClan," he announced. "Let all those cats old enough to catch their own prey join here beneath the high rock for a clan meeting." Most of the cats were there already, but as Firestar's voice echoed around the clearing, the last of the clan members slid out of their dens and trotted over to join the others. Last of all came Squirrelpaw with their mentor, Sandstorm. Her tortoiseshell fur was freshly groomed, her white chest and paws shining like snow. Her amber eyes gleamed with pride and suppressed excitement as she paced across the clearing. Beside her, Sandstorm looked just as proud. Brambleclaw knew how much the ginger she-cat had suffered when she had seen her apprentice lying injured on the Thunderpath. They had both needed courage and perseverance to reach this ceremony. Firestar sprang down from the high rock to meet the apprentice and her mentor. "Sandstorm," he began, using the formal words that had been handed down through all the clans. "Are you satisfied that this apprentice is ready to become a warrior of ThunderClan?" Sandstorm inclined her head. "She will be a warrior the clan can be proud of," she replied. Firestar raised his eyes to where the first stars of Silverpelt were beginning to appear in the evening sky. "I, Firestar, leader of ThunderClan, call upon my warrior ancestors to look down upon this apprentice." The clan was hushed as his voice rang out across the clearing. "She has trained hard to understand the ways of your noble code, and I commend her to you as a warrior in her turn." He turned to Squirrelpaw, locking his gaze with hers. "Squirrelpaw, you promised to uphold the warrior code and to protect and defend this clan, even at the cost of your life." Remembering how he felt at this moment in his own warrior ceremony, Brambleclaw watched Squirrelpaw's whole body quiver with anticipation as she lifted her chin and replied clearly, "I do." "Then by the powers of StarClan, I give you your warrior name. Squirrelpaw, from this moment, you'll be known as Sorreltail. StarClan honors your courage and your patience, and we welcome you as a full warrior of ThunderClan." Stepping forwards, Firestar rested his muzzle on top of Sorreltail's head. In turn, she gave his shoulder a respectful lick before backing away. The rest of the warriors gathered around her, welcoming her and calling her by her new name. "Sorreltail, Sorreltail!" Her brothers, Sootfur and Rainwhisker, were among the first. their eyes gleaming with pride that their sister had finally joined them as a warrior. Firestar waited until the noise had died down. Sorrowtail, according to tradition, you must keep vigil in silence tonight and watch over the camp, while the rest of us get a good night's sleep, Cloudtail added. Clan leader flashed him a warning glance but said nothing as the cats parted to let Sorrowtail take up her position in the middle of the clearing. She sat with her tail curled around her paws and her gaze fixed on the darkening sky, where the light of Silverpelt grew steadily stronger. With the ceremony over, the rest of the cats slipped away into the shadows. Brambleclaw stretched and yawned, looking forward to his comfortable nest in the warrior's den, but content to stay in the clearing for a while to enjoy the warmth. He could not see any signs that other cats had shared his disturbing dream. And yet, Bluestar had suggested that 3 other cats would be involved in the new prophecy. Brambleclaw felt a purr rising into his throat, half amused by how quickly he believed that a cat from StarClan had visited him in his dreams. That would teach him to gulp down fresh kill just before he went to sleep. Brambleclaw, Firestar patted over and settled down beside him. Cloudtail says you hunted well today. Thank you, Firestar. The leader's gaze was fixed on his daughters, Leafpaw and Squirrelpaw, who were heading towards the pile of fresh kill. Do you miss Tawnypelt? Firestar meowed unexpectedly. Brambleclaw blinked in surprise. Tawnypelt was his sister, the former ThunderClan deputy. Tigerstar had fathered them before he had been banished from the clan for trying to seize power from Bluestar, who was the leader then. Later, Tigerstar had made himself leader of ShadowClan, only to be killed by a rogue cat in a failed attempt to extend his power over the whole forest. Tawnypelt had always felt that ThunderClan blamed her for her father's crimes, and she had made the decision to join ShadowClan shortly after he became that clan's leader. Yes, Brambleclaw replied. Yes, Firestar. I miss her every day. I didn't understand how you might feel about her, not until I saw how close those two are. Firestar nodded towards the 2 sister apprentices, who were choosing prey from the pile. Firestar, you're not being fair to yourself, Brambleclaw insisted uncomfortably. After all, you miss your sister, don't you? He dared to add. Firestar had begun life as a kitty pet before he joined ThunderClan, and his sister, Princess, still lived with 2 legs. Firestar visited her from time to time, and Brambleclaw knew very well how important they were to each other. Princess had given Firestar her firstborn kit to raise as a warrior, and that was Cloudtail, Brightheart's loyal friend. The clan leader tilted his head to one side, thinking, Of course I miss Princess. He meowed at last. But she's a kitty pet. She could never live this kind of life. You must wish that Tawnypelt had stayed here in ThunderClan. I guess I do, Brambleclaw admitted. But she's happier where she is. That's true, Firestar nodded. The most important thing is that you've both found a clan where you can be loyal. A warm feeling crept through Brambleclaw. Once, Firestar had doubted his loyalty because he looked so much like his father, Tigerstar, with the same muscular body and dark tabby pelt, the same amber eyes. Brambleclaw suddenly wondered if a truly loyal clan cat would mention the disturbing dream and Bluestar's warning that great trouble was coming to the forest. He was trying to find the words to start when Firestar stood up, dipped his head briefly in farewell, and padded over to where Sandstorm was sitting with Greystripe near the high rock. Brambleclaw almost followed him, But then he reminded himself that if StarClan really wanted to send a prophecy of great danger, they would not give it to one of the youngest, least experienced warriors in the clan. They would tell the Medicine Cat, or perhaps the clan leader himself. Obviously, Firestar and Cinderpelt had not received an omen, or they would be telling the clan what to do about it. No, Brambleclaw told himself again. There was nothing whatsoever to worry about. That was the end of chapter 1, and wow. That was pretty long, but understandable considering they're trying to set up the entire series. Chapter 2. The sun had not yet arisen when Brambleclaw set out with the dawn patrol. Even in the few days since Swordtail's warrior ceremony, the leaves had begun to turn gold and the first chill of leafall lay on the forest. Though it still hadn't rained for longer than a moon, the young warrior shivered as long grasses, heavy with dew, brushed against his fur. Cobwebs spread a gray film over the bushes, and the air was filled with damp, leafy scents. The twittering of waking birds began to drown out the soft padding of the cat's paws. Brightheart's brother, Thornclaw, who was in the lead, paused to look back at Brambleclaw and Ashfur. Firestar wants us to check Snake Rocks, he meowed. Watch out for adders. There are more of them since the weather has been so hot. Brambleclaw instinctively unsheathed his claws. The adders would be hidden in cracks now, but as soon as the sun came up, the warmth would tempt them out again. One bite from those poisoned jaws could kill a warrior before Medicine Cat could do anything to help. Before they had gone very far, Brambleclaw began to hear faint sounds behind him, as if something were moving around in the undergrowth. He paused, glancing back in hope of an easy bit of prey. At first he could see nothing. Then he noticed the fronds of thick clump fern waving about, though there was no breeze. He sniffed the air, opening his jaws to drink it in, before letting out a breath again with a sigh. Come out, Squirrel Paw, he meowed. There was a moment's silence, then the bracken waved again, and the stems parted as the dark ginger she cat came out into the open. Her green eyes glared in defiance. What's going on? Thornclaw padded up to Brambleclaw, with Ashfur just behind him. Brambleclaw indicated the apprentice with a flick of his tail. I heard something behind us, he explained. She must have followed us from the camp. Don't talk about me as if I weren't here, Squirrelpaw protested hotly. You shouldn't be here, Brambleclaw retorted. Somehow Squirrelpaw had only to open her mouth for him to feel that his fur was being rubbed the wrong way. Stop bickering, the pair of you, Thornclaw growled. You're not kids anymore. Squirrelpaw, tell us what you're doing. Did some cat send you with a message? She wouldn't have been so skulking in the bracken if they had, Brambleclaw couldn't resist pointing out. No, they didn't, Squirrelpaw meowed with a resentful glance at Brambleclaw, her paws scuffling in the grass. I wanted to come with you, that's all. I haven't been on patrol for ages. And you weren't told to come on this one, Thornclaw replied. Does Dustpout know you're here? No, Squirrelpaw admitted. He promised last night we'd do some training, but every cat knows he spends all day in the nursery with Ferncloud and their kits. Not anymore, Ashfur meowed. Not since the kids opened their eyes. Squirrelpaw, I think you might be in trouble if Dustpout goes looking for you. Better go back to the camp right away, Thornclaw decided. Anger flared up in Squirrelpaw's eyes, and she took a step forward that brought her nose to nose with Thornclaw. You're not my mentor, so don't order me around. Thornclaw's nostrils flared minutely as he let out a patient sigh and Brambleclaw admired his self-control. If Squirrelpaw had spoken to him like that, he would have been tempted to rake his claws over her ear. Even Squirrelpaw seemed to realize she had gone too far. "I'm sorry, Thornclaw," she meowed, "but it's true. I haven't been on patrol for days. Please, can I come?" Thornclaw exchanged a glance with Ashfur and Brambleclaw. "All right," he mewed. "But don't blame me if Dustpelt turns you into crow food when we get back." Squirrelpaw gave a little skip of excitement. "Thank you, Thornclaw." "Where are we going? Are we looking for anything special? Is there going to be trouble?" Thornclaw swished his tail across her mouth to silence her. "Snake rocks," he replied. "And it's up to us to make sure there won't be trouble." "Watch out for adders, though," Brambleclaw added. "I know that," Squirrelpaw flashed back at him. "And we do it quietly?" Thornclaw ordered her. "I don't want to hear another squeak out of you unless there's something I need to know." Squirrelpaw opened her mouth to reply, and took in what he said and nodded vigorously. The patrol set off again. Brambleclaw had to admit now she had gotten her own way. Squirrelpaw was behaving sensibly, slipping quietly along behind the leader and staying alert for every sound and movement in the undergrowth. The sun was well risen by the time the four cats emerged from the trees and saw the smooth, rounded shapes of snake rocks in front of them. A dark hole gaped at the foot of one of them. It was the cave where the dog pack had hidden. Brambleclaw shuddered, remembering that Tigerstar, his own father, had tried to lead the savage animals to the ThunderClan camp in deadly revenge against his former clanmates. Squirrelpaw noticed his expression. "Scared of adders?" she taunted him. "Yes," Brambleclaw replied, "and so should you be." "Whatever," she shrugged. "They're probably more scared of us." Before Brambleclaw could stop her, she bounded forward into the clearing, obviously meaning to poke her nose into the hole. "Stop!" Thornclaw's voice brought her skidding to a halt. "Hasn't Dustpelt told you that we don't go dashing anywhere before we're sure that what we're going to find?" Squirrelpaw looked embarrassed. "Of course he has." "Well, act like you might have listened to him for once, or twice." Thornclaw padded up beside the apprentice. "Have a good sniff," he suggested. "See if you can scent anything." The young she-cat stood with her head raised, drawing the morning air into her mouth. "Mouse," she meowed brightly after a moment. "Can we hunt, Thornclaw?" "Later," the warrior replied. "Now concentrate." Squirrelpaw tasted the air again. "The thunder path, just over there," she waved her tail. "And a two-leg with a dog. But that's stale," she added. "I guess they were here yesterday." "Very good," Thornclaw sounded impressed, and Squirrelpaw curled her tail up in delight. "There's something else," she went on. "A horrible scent. I don't think I've smelled it before." Brambleclaw raised his head and sniffed. He quickly identified the scent Squirrelpaw had mentioned, and the new, unfamiliar one. "Badger," he meowed. Thornclaw nodded. "That's right. Looks as if it's moved into the cave where the dogs were." Ashfur groaned. "Just our luck." "Why?" Squirrelpaw asked. "What are badgers like? Are they a problem?" "Are they ever?" Brambleclaw growled. "They're no good to any cat, and they'd kill you as soon as they look at you." Squirrelpaw's eyes widened, though she looked more impressed than frightened. Ashfur cautiously approached the dark cave mouth sniffed, and peered inside. "It's dark as a fox's heart in there," he reported. "But I don't think the badger is at home." While he was speaking, Brambleclaw suddenly caught the scent again, much stronger this time, washing over him from somewhere behind him. He leaped around to see a pointed, striped face appear from behind the trunk of a nearby tree, its huge patch crushing the grass, its muzzle snuffling along the ground. "Look out!" he yelled, every hair on his pelt bristling in fear. He had never been this close to a badger before. Whirling around, he dashed out into the clearing. "Squirrelpaw! Run!" As soon as Brambleclaw gave the alarm, Ashford dived into the undergrowth, while Thornclaw bounded toward the safety of the trees. But Squirrelpaw stayed where she was, her gaze fixed on the huge creature. "This way! Squirrelpaw!" Thornclaw called, starting to come back. The apprentice still hesitated. Brambleclaw barreled into her, thrusting her towards the trees. "I said run!" Her green eyes, blazing with fear and excitement, met his for a heartbeat. The badger was lumbering forward, its small eyes glittering as it scented cats intruding onto its territory. Squirrelpaw pelted towards the edge of the clearing and launched herself up the nearest tree. Reaching a low branch, she dug in her claws and crouched there. Her ginger fur fluffed out. Brambleclaw clawed his way up beside her. Down below, the badger was blundering back and forth, as if it could not tell where the cat had gone. Its black and white head swung threateningly side to side. Brambleclaw knew that it could not see very well. Usually, badgers only came out after dark, and this one would be on its way back to the cave after a night's feeding on worms and grubs. "Would it eat us?" Squirrelpaw asked breathlessly. "No," Brambleclaw replied, trying to slow his pounding heart. "Even a fox kills to eat, but a badger will kill you for just getting in its way. We're not prey to them, but they won't tolerate trespassers on their territory. Why did you hang about down there instead of running like I told you? I've never seen a badger before, and I wanted to. Dustpelt says we should get all the experience we can." "Does that include the experience of having your fur ripped off?" Brambleclaw asked dryly, but for once, Squirrelpaw didn't reply. While he was speaking, Brambleclaw hadn't taken his eyes off the creature below. He breathed a sigh of relief as it gave up the search and padded over to the cave mouth, where it squeezed itself inside and was gone. Thornclaw leaped down from the tree where he had taken refuge. "That was closer than I'd like." He meowed as Brambleclaw and Squirrelpaw scrambled down to join him. "Where's Ashfur?" "Here." Ashfur's pale gray head popped out of a tangle of briars. "Do you think that badger is the same one that killed Willowpelt last Leaf Fair?" "Maybe," Thornclaw replied. Cloudtail and Mousefur drove it away from the camp, but we never found out where it went. A pang of sadness went through Brambleclaw as he remembered the silver-gray she-cat. Willowpelt was a mother of Swordtail, Sootfur, and Vainwhisker, but she had not lived to see her kids become warriors. "So what are we going to do about it?" Squirrelpaw asked eagerly. "Shall we go in there and kill it? There are 4 of us and only 1 badger. How hard could it be?" Brambleclaw winced, while Thornclaw closed his eyes and waited a moment before speaking. "Squirrelpaw, you never go into a badger's den. Or a fox's for that matter. They'll attack right away. There isn't enough room to maneuver, and you can't see what you're doing. But no, we'll head back to camp and report it." Firestar would decide what to do. Without waiting for Squirrelpaw to argue anymore, he set off in the direction they had come. Ashfur fell in behind him, but Squirrelpaw paused at the edge of the clearing. "We could have dealt with it," she grumbled, glancing back longingly at the dark mouth of the cave. "I could have lured it out, and then it would have killed you with one swipe of its paw. And we'd still have to go back and report it." Brambleclaw meowed discouragingly. "What do you think we would have said?" "Sorry, Firestar, but we accidentally let a badger get your daughter?" "We would have our fur off. Badgers are bad news, and that's that." "Well, you wouldn't catch Firestar leaving a badger in ThunderClan territory without doing anything." Squirrelpaw swung her tail up defiantly and plunged it into the undergrowth to catch up with Thornclaw and Ashfur. Brambleclaw raised his eyes, murmured, "Great Star Clan," and followed. When he emerged from the gorse tunnel into the clearing, the first cat he saw was Dustpelt. The brown tabby warrior why I say packing is probably because it's cut in half from this sentence. I'm gonna retake that. The brown tabby warrior was pacing up and down outside the apprentice's den, his tail lashing from side to side. Two of the other apprentices, Spiderpaw and Whitepaw, were crouched in the shade of ferns, watching him apprehensively. As soon as Dustpelt spotted Squirrelpaw, he marched across the clearing towards her. "Uh-oh," Squirrelpaw muttered. "Well?" The tabby warrior's voice was icy. Brambleclaw winced, knowing how short-tempered he was. The only cat who had never felt the rough side of his tongue was Ferncloud. "What have you got to say for yourself?" Squirrelpaw met his glare bravely, but there was a quaver in her voice as she replied. "I went on patrol, Dustpelt." "Oh, on patrol. I see. And which cat ordered you to go? Graystripe? Firestar?" "No cat ordered me, but I thought—" "No, you didn't think." Dustpelt's voice was scathing. "I told you we would train today. Mousefur and Brackenfur took their apprentices to the training hollow to practice their fighting moves. We could have gone with them, but we didn't. But you weren't here. You realize that every cat has been searching the camp for you?" Squirrelpaw shook her head, scuffling the ground with her front paws. "When no cat could find you, Firestar took out a patrol to try and follow your scent. Did you see anything of him?" Another shake of the head. Brambleclaw realized that following a scent in the heavy dew that morning would have been next to impossible. "Your clan leader has better things to do than chase after apprentices who can't do as they're told." Dustpelt went on. "Thornclaw, why did you let her go with you?" "I'm sorry, Dustpelt." Thornclaw apologized. "I thought she'd be safer with us than wandering around the forest by herself." Dustpelt snorted. "That's true." "You could still go and do the training," Squirrelpaw suggested. "Oh, no. No more training for you until you learn what being an apprentice really means." Dustpelt paused for a heartbeat. "You can spend the rest of the day looking after the elders. Make sure they've got enough fresh kill, change their bedding, go over their pelts for ticks." He blinked. "I'm sure Cinderpaw has plenty of mouse bile for you." Squirrelpaw's eyes flew wide in dismay. "Oh, yuck!" "Well, what are you waiting for?" The young apprentice stared at him for a moment longer. as if she couldn't believe he really meant it. When there was no change in her mentor's hard stare, she whisked around and flounced across the clearing towards the Elder's Den. If 5 Star's out looking for Squirrelpaw, I have to wait for him to get back before we report the badger, Thornclaw observed. Badger? What badger? Asked Dustpelt, while Thornclaw and Ashford began to describe what they had seen at Snake Rocks. Brambleclaw bounded across the clearing and caught up with Squirrelpaw just outside the Elder's Den. What do you want? She spat. Don't be angry, Brambleclaw mewed. We couldn't help feeling sorry for her, even though she had deserved some sort of punishment for leaving the camp, without any cat knowing where she was going. I'll help you with the elders, if you like. Squirrelpaw opened her mouth as if she were about to make a retort, and then clearly thought better of it. Okay, thanks, she muttered ungraciously. You go and get the mouse file, and I'll start on the betting. Squirrelpaw's eyes opened wide in a winning expression. You wouldn't rather get the mouse file, would you? No, I wouldn't. Dustpelt especially told you to do that. Don't you think you'll check? Squirrelpaw shrugged. No harm in trying. With a flick of her tail, she stalked off to find Cinderpelt. Brambleclaw headed for the Elder's Den, which was in the patch of grass sheltered by a fallen tree. The tree was burned out shell. Brambleclaw could still scent the acrid tang from the fire that had swept through the camp more than 4 seasons ago. When he was only a kit, but the grass had grown up again around the tree trunk, thick and luxuriant, making a comfortable home for the elderly cats whose service to the clan was done. When he pushed his way through the grasses, he found elders sunning themselves in the small, flattened clearing. Dappletail, oldest cat in ThunderClan, was curled up, asleep, her patchy tortoiseshell pelt rising and falling with each breath. Frostfur, a still beautiful white queen, was dabbing lazily at a beetle. Why is there... There's a lot of words in this series that are like cut in half. It's annoying. Dabbing lazily at a beetle in the grass. Speckletail and Longtail were crouched together as if they were in the middle of a good gossip. Brambleclaw felt the familiar jolt of sympathy when he looked at Longtail. The pale Tappy Tom was still a young warrior, but his eyesight had begun to fail, so that he could no longer fight or hunt for himself. Hi there, Brambleclaw. Longtail's head swung around as Brambleclaw entered the clearing. His jaws parted to take in the newcomer's scent. What can we do for you? I've come to help Squirrelpaw, Brambleclaw explained. Dustpelt sent her to look after you today. Speckletail broke into rasping laughter. I heard she went missing. The whole camp was in an uproar, looking for her, but I knew she'd just have gone off by herself. She tagged onto the dawn patrol, Brambleclaw meowed. Before he could say any more, there was the sound of another cat pushing through the grasses, and Squirrelpaw appeared. She had a twig clamped in her jaws. Hanging from it was a ball of moss soaked in mouse bile. Brambleclaw wrinkled his nose at the bitter scent. Right. Who's got ticks? Squirrelpaw mumbled around the twig. You're supposed to look for them yourself, Brambleclaw pointed out. Squirrelpaw shot him a glare. You can start with me, Frostfur offered. I'm sure there's one on my shoulder, just where I can't get it. Squirrelpaw padded over to the she-cat, parting a white fur with a forepaw and grunting when she discovered the tick. She dabbed at it with the damp moss until it dropped off. Ticks obviously found mouse bile as disgusting as cats did, thought Brambleclaw. Don't worry, youngster, Speckletail mewed as Squirrelpaw went on searching Frostfur's pelt. Your father was punished many a time when he was an apprentice. even after he became a warrior. I never knew such a cat for getting into trouble, and look at him now. Squirrelpaw swung around to look at the elder, her green eyes sparkling, obviously begging for a tail. Well now, Sparkatail settled herself more comfortably in her grassy nest. There was the time when Firestar and Greystripe were caught feeding RiverClan with prey from our own territory. Ramaclaw had heard the story before, so he began to collect the elder's used bedding, rolling the moss together until he gathered it up in a ball. When he took it out into the clearing, he spotted Firestar emerging from the gorse tunnel, with Sandstorm and Cloudtail behind him. Thornclaw was hurrying across to meet them from the other side of the clearing. Thanks, Darkland, Squirrelpaw's safe. Firestar was mewing as Brambleclaw came into earshot. One of these days she'll get into real trouble. She's in real trouble now, Sandstorm growled. Just wait till I get my paws on her. Dustpout already did. Thornclaw gave a meow of amusement. He sent her to help the elders for the rest of the day. Firestar nodded. Good. And there's something else, Thornclaw went on. He found a badger up at Snake Rocks, living in the cave where the dogs used to be. I think it might be the one that killed Willowpelt. Brambleclaw put in, setting his ball of moss down. We've not seen any trace of badger anywhere else in the forest. Cloudtail let out a growl. Oh, I hope it is. I'd give anything to get my claws on that brute. Firestar swung around to face him. You'll do nothing of the kind without orders. I don't want to lose more cats. He paused for a moment, then added, we keep watch on it for a while. Pass the word around not to hunt at Snake Rocks for the time being. With any luck, we'll move on before Leafbear, when prey gets scarce. And hedgehogs might fly, Cloudtail grumbled, stalking past Brambleclaw towards the warrior's den. Badgers and cats don't mix, and that's the end of it. As the end of Chapter 2, I'm going to take a short break before we continue to Chapter 3, so I will be right back. I'm back. Chapter 3. Squirrelpaw is upset, Leafpaw remarked, watching her sister leave the medicine cat's clearing with the twig of mouse bile clenched in her paws. She deserves to be, Cinderpelt glanced up from counting juniper berries. She spoke firmly, though not unsympathetically. If apprentices think they can go off by themselves without telling any cat, then where would we be? I know. While Leafpaw prepared the mouse bile, she had listened to her sister raging about how unfair the punishment was. Squirrelpaw's anger churned deep within Leafpaw's belly, as if the air in the camp were water and her sister was sending ripples of cold frustration into the medicine cat's den. Ever since they were tiny kids, they had always known what the other was feeling. Leafpaw remembered how her fur had tingled with excitement when Squirrelpaw was made apprentice, and how her sister had been unable to sleep on the night when Leafpaw had been apprenticed as a medicine cat at the Moonstone. Once she had felt an excruciating pain in her paw, and limped around the camp from sun high to sunset, until Squirrelpaw returned from a hunting patrol with a thorn driven deep into her pad. Leafpaw shook her head as if she had a burr clinging to her pelt, trying to push away her sister's emotions and concentrate on her task of sorting yellow leaves. Squirrelpaw will be fine, Cinderpelt reassured her. They'll all be forgotten tomorrow. Now, did you get that mouse bile on your fur? If you did, you better go and wash it off. No, Cinderpelt, I'm fine. Leafpaw knew her voice was filled with strain she was feeling, however hard she tried to hide it. Cheer up. Cinderpelt limped out of her den to join her apprentice, pressing her muzzle comfortingly against Leafpaw's side. Do you want to come to the gathering tonight? May I? Leafpaw spun to face her mentor. Then she hesitated. Squirrelpaw won't be allowed to come, will she? After today? Certainly not. Cinderpelt's blue eyes glowed with understanding. Leafpaw, you and your sister aren't kids anymore. And you have chosen a very different path from hers. To be a medicine cat. You'll always be friends, but you can't do everything together. And the sooner you both accept that, the better. Leafpaw nodded and bent over the yarrow leaves again. She struggled to calm her feelings of excitement over the gathering, so that Squirrelpaw would not feel even more upset over being left out. Cinderpelt was right, but all the same, she couldn't help wishing that she and Squirrelpaw had been able to attend the gathering together. The full moon rode high in the sky, as Firestar led the cats from ThunderClan up the slope towards Four Trees. Padding alongside Cinderpelt, Leafpaw shivered with anticipation. This was the place where the territories of all four clans joined together. At every full moon, the clan leaders met there with their warriors under the sacred truce of StarClan to exchange news and make decisions that would affect the whole forest. Firestar paused at the top of the slope and gazed down into the clearing. Leafpaw, near the back of the group, could only just see the tops of the four great oak trees that gave the clearing its name, but she could hear the sounds of many cats, and the breeze brought to her a mingled sense of ShadowClan, RiverClan, and WindClan. Before her first gathering, the only other cats Leafpaw had met were the 3 medicine cats from the other clans. When she made her journey to Highstones at the half moon to be formally apprenticed, when she had attended a gathering for the first time, she and Squirrelpaw had been overwhelmed by all the strangers, and had stayed close to their mentors. But this time, Leafpaw felt more confident, and she was looking forward to meeting warriors and apprentices from other clans. Crouching in the undergrowth, she watched for her father for the signal to move down into the clearing. Brambleclaw was standing just in front of her with Mousefur and Swordtail. Leafpaw could see from the tautness in the young tabby's muscles that she was eagerly waiting for the gathering to start. While Swordtail's whole body quivered with excitement at the prospect of her first gathering as a warrior. Further ahead, Greystripe and Sandstorm were exchanging a few words while Cloudtail shifted impatiently from paw to paw. Briefly, Leafpaw felt a pang of sadness that Squirrelpaw was not there as well, but to her relief, her sister had not minded too much about being left behind, saying that she was looking forward to a good night's sleep after caring for the elders all day. At last, Firestar raised his tail as a sign for his cats to move forward. Leafpaw sprang over the edge of the hollow and found herself racing down the slope just behind Brambleclaw, weaving her way through the bushes until she came out into the clearing. The shimmering moonlight revealed a mass of cats, that already seated around the great rock in the center, others trotting across the clearing to greet cats they had not seen for a moon, or lying in the shelter of bushes to gossip and share time. Brambleclaw slipped into the throng right away. Cinderpelt went over to speak to Little Cloud, the Shadow Clan medicine cat. Leafpaw hesitated, still a little daunted by the number of warriors in front of her, the unfamiliar scents, and the glowing of so many eyes that all seemed to train on. Then she caught sight of Greystripe with a group of cats who had all the scent of river clam. Leafpaw recognized a warrior with dense blue-gray fur, whom they had met at the last gathering, and remembered her name, Mistyfoot, the River Clan deputy. The two younger warriors were strangers to her, but Greystripe greeted them affectionately, pressing his muzzle against theirs. Leafpaw was just wondering if she would be welcome to go and talk to them, and Mistyfoot caught her eye and beckoned her with her tail. Hi. It's Leafpaw, isn't it? Cinderpelt's apprentice? That's right. Leafpaw patted over. How are you? We're all well. And the clan is thriving, Mistyfoot replied. Have you met Stormfur and Feathertail? My kits, Greystripe added proudly, though it was several moons since these strong cats had left the nursery. Leafpaw touched noses with the young warriors, realizing that she should have guessed Stormfur was Greystripe's kin. The two cats had the same muscular bodies and long gray pelt. Feathertail's fur was lighter silver-gray tabby. Her blue eyes glowed with warmth and friendliness as she greeted Leafpaw. I know Cinderpelt well, she meowed. She looked after me once when I was ill. You must be proud to be her apprentice. Leafpaw nodded. Very proud, but she knows so much. Sometimes I wonder if I will learn it all. Feathertail purred sympathetically. I felt the same about becoming a warrior. I'm sure you'll be fine. You say the clan's thriving, Mistyfoot. Greystripe meowed quietly, but you're looking worried. Is there a problem? Now that you mentioned it, Leafpaw could see a glimmer of uneasiness in the River Clan deputy's eyes. Mistyfoot hesitated for a couple of heartbeats and then shrugged. It's probably nothing, but, well, you'll hear about it soon enough, when the gathering starts. As she spoke, she glanced toward the great rock. Leafpaw saw the two cats were already waiting on the summit. Silhouetted against the shining circle of the full moon was Tallstar, leader of WindClan, easily recognizable by his long tail. Beside him stood Leopardstar, the RiverClan leader, staring around impatiently at the cats below. As Leafpaw watched, she saw Firestar leap up to join them. Where's ShadowClan's leader? Leopardstar called out. Blackstar, what are you waiting for? Just coming, a heavy white tom The jet black paw shouldered his way through the cats, not far from Leafpaw. He crouched at the base of the rock and sprang up to land lightly beside the River Clan leader. As soon as his paws touched the rock, Leopardstar threw back her head and let out a yell. At once, the noise in the clearing died down and every cat turned to face the great rock. Feathertail settled down beside Leafpaw with a friendly glance, and Leafpaw found herself warming to the gentle young warrior. Cats of all clans, welcome. Tallstar, the eldest of all clan leaders, moved to the front of the great rock, raising his voice to address the assembled cats. Glancing at his fellow leaders, he asked, "Who will speak first?" "I will." Firestar stepped forward, his flame-colored pelt turning silver in the moonlight. Leafpaw listened as her father passed on the news about the badger at Snake Rocks. It caused little stir. The creature was unlikely to move from there onto another clan's territory, as long as the forest was full of prey. "And we have a new warrior," Firestar went on. "The Thunder Clan apprentice Sorrowpaw has taken the warrior name of Sorrowtail." A murmur of appreciation rippled around the clearing. Sorrowtail was popular and well known among the other clans, having been to several more gatherings than the average apprentice. Leafpaw caught a glimpse of her sitting up, very straight and proud, beside Sandstorm. Firestar stepped back, and Blackstar took his place. He had taken over the leadership of ShadowClan after the death of Tigerstar. Under his leadership, ShadowClan was trusted more than before, though it was still believed that cold winds blew over the hearts of the ShadowClan cats and darkened their thoughts. "ShadowClan is strong and prey is plentiful," Blackstar announced. "The heat of Greenleaf has dried up part of the marshes on our territory, but we still have plenty of water to drink." His glance raked defiantly around the clearing. Leafpaw reflected that even if the ShadowClan had less than a single raindrop left in their territory, Blackstar was unlikely to admit as much to the gathering. Tallstar flicked his tail at Leopardstar, inviting her to speak, but she drew back, leaving the place next to him. The Wind Clan leader hesitated for a moment. Leafpaw saw that his eyes were clouded with worry. Blackstar spoke truly of the heat of Greenleaf, he began. "It is many days since the forest saw rain, and the moorland streams on Wind Clan's territory have been scorched away completely this last quarter moon. We have no water at all, but the river borders your territory." A cat called out from the shadows beneath the great rock. Craning her neck to see, Leafpaw recognized Russetfur, the ShadowClan deputy. "The river runs through a deep, sheer-sided gorge for the whole length of our border," Tallstar replied. "It's too dangerous to go down there. Warriors have tried, and one whisker fell, but thanks StarClan he was not hurt. Our kits and elders cannot manage the climb. They are suffering badly, and I fear that some of the younger kits might die." "Can't your kits and elders chew grass for the moisture?" another cat suggested. Tallstar shook his head. "The grass is parched. I tell you, there's no water anywhere in our territory." Turning with clear reluctance to the River Clan leader, he meowed. "Leopardstar, in the name of StarClan, I must ask that you let us come to your territory to drink from the river there." Leopardstar came to stand beside the Wind Clan leader, her dappled golden fur rippling in the moonlight. "The water in the river is low," she warned. "We have not escaped the effects of drought in my clan." "But there is far more than you need," Tallstar responded, desperation creeping into his tone. Leopardstar nodded. "That is true." Coming to the very edge of the rock, she looked down into the clearing and asked, "What do my warriors think? Mistyfoot?" The River Clan deputy rose to a pause, but before she could speak, one of her clanmates cried out, "We can't trust them! Let Wind Clan set one paw over our border and they'll be taking our prey as well as our water." Leafpaw could see the speaker, a smoky black Tom sitting a few fox lengths away, but she did not recognize him. "That's Blackclaw," Feathertail murmured into her ear. "He's loyal to the clan, but..." He trailed off, obviously unwilling to say anything bad about her clanmate. Mistyfoot turned and fixed Blackclaw with a clear, blue stare. "You forget the times when RiverClan has needed help from other clans," she meowed. "If they had not stepped up to help us then, we would not be here today." To Leopardstar, she added, "I say we should allow this. We have water to spare." The clearing fell silent as the cats waited for Leopardstar to make her decision. "Very well. Tallstar," she meowed at last. "The clan may enter our territory to drink from the river, just below the Two-Lake Bridge, but we will come no further, and you do not have leave to take prey." Tallstar bowed his head, and Leafpaw heard the relief in his voice as she replied, "Leopardstar, RiverClan has our thanks, from the oldest elder to the youngest kid. You saved our clan. The drought would not last forever, and you will have water in your territory soon. We'll discuss this again at the next gathering," she meowed. "I'm sure they will," Greystripe muttered darkly. "If I know Leopardstar, she'll make WindClan pay for that water somehow." "Let us hope that StarClan have sent rain by then," Tallstar meowed, stepping back to let Leopardstar address the gathering. Leafpaw's interest quickened as she wondered if they were about to hear what had been troubling Mistyfoot earlier. But at first, the RiverClan leader's news was unremarkable. A litter of kits had been born, and Two Lakes had left rubbish by the river, attracting rats that had been killed by Blackclaw and Stormfur. Greystripe looked ready to burst with pride when his son was praised, while Stormfur scuffed the ground with his paws, his ears flat with embarrassment. At last, Leopardstar meowed. "Some of you have met our apprentices, Hawkpaw and Mothpaw. They are now warriors and will be known as Hawkfrost and Mothwing." The cats around Leafpaw craned their necks to see the warriors the RiverClan leader had named. Leafpaw turned to look too, but she could not distinguish them among the throng. The traditional welcoming murmur for all the new warriors broke out at the announcement. But to Leafpaw's surprise, it was mingled with a few discerning growls, which she realized were coming from RiverClan cats. Leopardstar glared down from the rock and stilled the noise with a flick of her tail. "Do I hear protests?" she spat out angrily. "Very well, I'll tell you everything, to stop rumors flying once and for all. 6 moons ago, at the beginning of New Leaf, a rogue cat came into the RiverClan with her 2 surviving kits. Her name was Sasha, and the birth of her kits had weakened her so much that she needed help with hunting and caring for them. For a time, she thought of joining the clan, and we would have welcomed her as a warrior, but in the end, she decided the warrior code was not the way of life for her. She left us, but her kits chose to stay." A flood of protest surged up from the cats around the rock. One voice rose clear above the yelling. "Rogue cats? Taken into the clan? Has RiverClan gone mad?" Greystripe shot a questioning glance at Mistyfoot, who shrugged. "They are good warriors," she murmured defensively. Leopardstar made no attempt to quiet the clamor, only staring stonily down until it died away. "They are strong young cats, and they have learned their warrior's skills well," she meowed when she could make herself heard. "They have sworn to defend their clan at the cost of their lives, just as all of you have sworn." With a glance at Blackstar, she added, "Were not some of the ShadowClan warriors rogues once?" Before he could reply, a gaze swiveled to Firestar. "And if a kitty pet can become a clan leader, why should rogues not be welcome as warriors?" "She has a point there," Greystripe admitted. Firestar dipped his head towards Leopardstar. "True," he meowed. "I would be glad to see these cats fulfill their promise as loyal members of the clan." Leopardstar nodded in reply. His words had clearly appeased her. Is that what was worrying you, Mistyfoot? Graystripe asked. It's no big deal if they've settled down well. I know, Mistyfoot sighed. And I know I'm the last cat to criticize any warrior for being born outside the clan, but... You do know that Mistyfoot's mother was the old leader, Bluestar? Feathertail whispered to Leafpaw. Leafpaw nodded. But Leopardstar hasn't told you everything. Mistyfoot went on. The blue-gray warrior broke off as Leopardstar began to speak again. Mothwing has chosen a special place within our clan, she explained. Mudfur, our medicine cat, is growing old. The time has come for him to take an apprentice. This time, her voice was drowned completely by the howls of protest. The 3 other leaders on top of the great rock grouped together for an anxious conference. Tallstar was clearly unwilling to speak out after Leopardstar had agreed to give him access to the river, and in the end it was Blackstar who replied. I'm ready to admit that a rogue can learn enough of our code to become a warrior, he rasped. But a medicine cat? What do rogues know of StarClan? Would StarClan even accept her? That's what's bothering me, Mistyfoot muttered to Graystripe. Leafpaw felt a tingle spread through her fur. She remembered her own conviction, back when she had little more than a kid, that it was right for her to heal and comfort her clanmates, and to interpret the signs of StarClan for them. Had Mothwing felt the same? Leafpaw wondered. Could she have felt the same if she was not clan-born? Even Yellowfang, the medicine cat before Cinderpelt, had been forest-born. The Thunder Clan had not been the clan of her birth. Voices all around the clearing echoed Blackstar's questions. At the base of the rock, Old Brown Tom heaved himself to his paws and waited for quiet. It was Mudfur, the River Clan medicine cat. As the noise died down, he raised his voice. Mothwing is a talented young cat, he meowed. But because she was born a rogue, I'm waiting for a sign from StarClan that she is right medicine cat for River Clan. Once I have received a sign, I'll take her to Mothermouth at the half-moon time. If I act without the blessing of StarClan, then you can all complain, but not until then. He flopped back down again, his whiskers twitching irritably. The crowd had parted so that Leafpaw could make out the young cat crouched beside him. She was startlingly beautiful, with glowing amber eyes and a triangular face, a long golden pelt with rippling tabby stripes. Is that Mothwing? He whispered to Feathertail. That's right. Feathertail gave Leafpaw's ear a quick lick. When the leaders have finished, I'll take you to meet her, if you like. She's quite friendly, once you get to know her. Leafpaw nodded eagerly. She was sure that Mudfur would soon receive a sign that Mothwing could be accepted. There were no other medicine cat apprentices in the forest. She looked forward to making friends with another one. Someone she could talk to about her training and all the mysteries of StarClan that were slowly being revealed to her. The protests had died down after Mudfur's speech, and Leopardstar had no more to say. Tallstar brought the meeting to an end. Feathertail leaped to a pause. Come on, before we all have to leave. As Leafpaw followed the River Clan warrior across the clearing, she felt sympathy already for Mothwing. Judging by the response of the other cats tonight, it was easy to imagine the hard path that lay ahead of her before she would be fully accepted by her clan. As the gathering drew close and the cats began to separate into their own clans, Brambleclaw looked around for his sister, Tawnypelt. He had not seen her and wondered if she had not been chosen to come this time. He saw Firestar halt in front of the young Tabby Tom, who was sitting near Mudfur, the River Clan medicine cat. Congratulations, Hawkfrost, Firestar meowed. I'm sure you'll make a fine warrior. So that's Hawkfrost, Brambleclaw thought with interest, pricking up his ears. The rogue-born RiverClan cat. Thank you, Firestar, the new warrior replied. I'll do my best to serve my clan. I'm sure you will. Firestar touched Hawkfrost on the shoulder with the tip of his tail in a gesture of encouragement. Pay no attention to all the fuss. They'll all be forgotten in a moon. He walked on, and Hawkfrost raised his head to look after him. Brambleclaw couldn't quite suppress a shiver when he glimpsed through Tom's eyes. An eerie ice blue that seemed to stare through the ThunderClan leader as if he were made of smoke. Great Star Clan, he murmured aloud. I wouldn't like to meet him in battle. Meet who? Brambleclaw spun around to see Tawnypelt standing behind him. There you are, he exclaimed. I've been looking everywhere for you. Answering her question, he added, Hawkfrost, he looks dangerous. Tawnypelt shrugged. So are you dangerous? I'm dangerous. It's what warriors are for. This whole full moon thing would be broken by the slash of a claw, and has been before. Brambleclaw nodded. True. So how are you, Tawnypelt? How is life in ShadowClan? Pretty good, Tawnypelt hesitated, looking uncharacteristically uncertain. Look, there's something I wanted to ask you about. Brambleclaw sat down and pricked his ears expectantly. The other night, I had this weird dream. What? He couldn't bite back an exclamation, and Tawnypelt's green eyes flew wide with alarm. No, go on, he meowed, forcing himself to be calm. Tell me about the dream. I was in the clearing in the forest, Tawnypelt explained, but I didn't recognize exactly where it was. There was a cat sitting on a rock, a black cat. I think it was Nightstar. You know, ShadowClan's leader before our father. I guess if StarClan were going to send a cat to ShadowClan, it wouldn't be Tigerstar. What did he say to you? Brambleclaw asked hoarsely, already knowing what his sister's answer would be. He told me that there was some great trouble coming to the forest, and a new prophecy had to be fulfilled. I had been chosen to meet with 3 other cats at the new moon and listen to what midnight would tell us. Brambleclaw stared at her, his fur crawling with ice. What's the matter? Tawnypelt asked. Why are you looking like that? Because I had the exact same dream, except that the cat who spoke to me was Bluestar. Tawnypelt blinked, and her brother saw a shiver pass through her tortoiseshell fur. At last, she meowed. Have you told any other cat about your dream? Brambleclaw shook his head. I didn't know what to make of it. To be honest, I thought it was due to something I ate. I mean, why would StarClan send a vision like that to me, instead of Firestar or Cinderpelt? I thought the same, his sister agreed. And I expected the other 3 cats to be from ShadowClan, so when no other cat mentioned it... I know. Me too. I thought they would be from ThunderClan, but it looks like as if we were wrong. Brambleclaw glanced around the clearing. The gathering was thinning out as cats began to leave, and in spite of the protests over Hawkfrost and Mothwing, the general mood was good-humored. No other cats looked as if they received doom-laden dreams. What possible trouble could coming, and if it did, what could he and Tawnypelt do about it? What do you think we should do now? Tawnypelt echoed his thoughts. If the dream was true, then the other 2 cats should have had it, Brambleclaw replied. It makes sense that there would be one from each of the other 2 clans. Should we try and find out who? Oh yes, Tawnypelt sounded scornful. Are you going to walk into WindClan and RiverClan territory and ask every other cat if they had a weird dream? I'm not. They would think we're mad if they didn't claw our ears off first. What do you suggest, then? We're all supposed to meet at the new moon, Tawny Pelt meowed thoughtfully. Nightstar didn't say where, but it must be here at Four Trees. There isn't anywhere else for cats from 4 different clans to get together. So you think we should come here at the new moon? Unless you can think of a better idea. Brambleclaw shook his head. I only hope the other cats do the same. If the dream is real, of course. He broke off as he heard a cat calling his name, and turned to see Firestar standing a short distance away, with the other ThunderClan cats gathered around him. It's time to go, Firestar said. Coming! Turning back to Tawny Pelt, he meowed urgently. At the new moon, then. Say nothing to any cat, and trust StarClan, the others will come. Tawny Pelt nodded and slipped into the bushes, following her clanmates. Brambleclaw hurried over to join Firestar, hoping that his shock and fear did not show on his face. He had tried to forget his dream, but if Tawny Pelt had dreamed it as well, he had no choice but to take it seriously. Trouble was coming, and he did not know what to do about it, nor understand how Midnight could tell him anything. Oh, StarClan, he mewed silently. I hope you know what you're doing. That's the end of chapter 3. These are some long chapters. Chapter 4. Brambleclaw emerged from the warrior's den and glanced around the clearing. Another quarter moon had passed, and still there was no rain. Over all the forest, the air was hot and heavy. The streams near the camp had dried up, so the clan had to travel to the stream that flowed past 4 trees when they needed water. Luckily, it ran deep through the rocky soil, and flowed even in the driest greenway. Ever since the gathering, Brambleclaw's sleep had been disturbed, and when he woke each morning, he struggled with the foreboding that something terrible had happened to the camp during the night. But everything seemed as peaceful as it had been the day before. This morning, Whitepaw and Truepaw were practicing their fighting moves outside the apprentice's den. Mousefer emerged from the gorse tunnel with Squirrel clamped in her jaws, followed by her apprentice, Spiderpaw, and Rainwhisker, who also carried fresh kill. Firestar and Greystripe were talking together at the base of the high rock, with Squirrelpaw and Dustpelt listening close by. Firestar beckoned Brambleclaw. Me messing up already, damn. Over with his tail. Are you up for an extra patrol? He asked. I want to check the border with ShadowClan, in case they get the idea of coming across here to find water. But Blackstar said that his clan has all the water they need, Brambleclaw reminded him. Firestar's ears twitched. True, but we don't necessarily believe what clan leaders say at the gathering. Besides, I've never trusted Blackstar. If he thinks we have richer prey in our territory, he'll send warriors in to help themselves, for sure. Greystripe growled agreement. ShadowClan have been quiet for too many moons. If you ask me, it's about time they started making trouble. I just thought. Brambleclaw stopped, embarrassed to be seen objecting to his leader's order, and amazed that he could see a possibility Firestar didn't seem to have considered. Go on, Firestar prompted. Brambleclaw took a deep breath. He couldn't get out of this now, despite of the green glare that Squirrelpaw was giving him for daring to disagree with their father. I just think that if there is trouble, it's more likely to come from WindClan, he ventured. If their territory is as dry as Tarstar said, then they're bound to be short on prey. WindClan, Squirrelpaw burst out. Brambleclaw, are you completely mouse-brained? ShadowClan gave WindClan permission to drink at the river. If they steal prey from anywhere, they'll steal it from RiverClan. And That strip of RiverClan territory is really narrow between the river and our border, Ramberclaw retorted. If WindClan do hunt, the prey could easily cross into our territory. You think you're so clever, Squirrelpaw sprang to her paws, her fur bristling. Firestar ordered you to check the ShadowClan border, so you should do as you're told. Of course. You've never disobeyed a warrior, have you? Dustpelt put in dryly. Squirrelpaw ignored her mentor. ShadowClan have always caused trouble, she persisted, but we're friends with WindClan now. Brambleclaw found himself getting angrier and angrier. Of course he didn't want to question Firestar's authority. Firestar was the hero who had saved the forest from the terrible ambitions of Tigerstar and the rogue cats who followed him. There would never be another cat like him. Yet Brambleclaw really believed that ThunderClan should take a possible threat from WindClan seriously. He would have liked to discuss it properly with Firestar. That was impossible when Squirrelpaw insisted on arguing with everything he said. You're the one who thinks she knows it all, he spat, taking a step towards her. You just listen for a moment. He ducked to avoid her paw as he lashed at him. Claws unsheathed, and his last scrap of self-control deserted him. Falling into a crouch, he got ready to spring at her, his tail twitching back and forth. If Squirrelpaw wanted to fight, she could have one. But before either of the young cats could attack, Firestar pushed in between them. That's enough, he snarled. Brambleclaw froze in dismay. Straightening up, he gave his chest an anxious lick and murmured, Sorry, Firestar. Squirrelpaw stayed silent, giving him a mutinous glare till Dustpelt prompted her. Well? Sorry, Squirrelpaw muttered, and instantly spoiled her apology by adding, but he's still a mouse brain. Actually, I think he's got a point, don't you? Dustpelt meowed to Firestar. I agree that ShadowClan have always been trouble and always will be, but if WindClan happened to spot a juicy vole or a squirrel on our side of the border, don't you think they might be tempted? Could be right, Firestar conceded. In that case, Brambleclaw, better take a patrol up to the RiverClan border, as far as 4 trees. Dustpelt, you and Squirrelpaw can go as well. His eyes narrowed as he glanced from his daughter to Brambleclaw and back again. And you will get along with each other, or I'll want to know why. Yes, Firestar, Brambleclaw replied, relieved that he had gotten off so lightly for nearly flattening Squirrelpaw. That's 2 patrols then, Greystripe mewed cheerfully. I'll find some more cats to go with me up to the ShadowClan side. He jumped to his paws and vanished into the warrior's den. Firestar nodded to Dustpelt, giving him authority over the patrol, and padded away to his den on the other side of the high rock. Right. Let's go, meowed Dustpelt. He set off towards the gorse tunnel, only to glance back at Squirrelpaw, who had not yet moved. What's the matter now? It's not fair, Squirrelpaw muttered. I don't want to patrol with him. Brambleclaw rolled his eyes, but had the sense not to start their quarrel again. Then you shouldn't have said what you did, Dustpelt told his apprentice. Pacing back, he stood over and gazed sternly down at her. Squirrelpaw, sooner or later, you must learn there are times to speak and times to be silent. Squirrelpaw heaved a noisy sigh. But it seems like always time to be silent. There, you've got the idea. Dustpelt flicked her ear with his tail, and Brambleclaw caught a glimpse of affection there, as between mentor and apprentice. Come on, both of you. We'll renew the scent markings, and with any luck, we'll come across a mouse or 2 while we're out. Squirrelpaw recovered her good temper when she caught a plump vole at Sunning Rocks. Brambleclaw had to admit that she was an efficient hunter, patiently stalking her prey and pouncing on it to dispatch it with one blow of her paw. "Dustpelt, I'm starving," she announced. "May I eat it?" The mentor hesitated for a heartbeat, then nodded. "The clan has been fed," he replied, "and this isn't a hunting patrol." Squirrelpaw shot a glance at Brambleclaw as she crouched over the fresh kill and took an eager bite. "Mmm, delicious," she mumbled. Then she stopped and nudged the remains of the vole towards Brambleclaw. "Want some?" Brambleclaw was on the brink of telling her that he could catch his own prey until he realized that Squirrelpaw was trying to make friends again. "Thanks," he meowed, taking a bite. Dustpelt leaped down from the top of the rock. "When you finish stuffing yourselves," he began. "Squirrelpaw, what can you scent?" "Apart from vole, you mean?" Squirrelpaw mewed cheekily, springing to her paws. She tasted the air. The breeze was blowing from RiverClan territory, and she soon replied, "RiverClan cats, strong and fresh." "Good." Dustpelt looked pleased. "A patrol just went by, nothing to do with us." "And no sign of WindClan," Brambleclaw commented to himself as they moved off again. Not that this meant his suspicions were wrong. He did not expect to see any of their cats this far downstream, the whole length of ThunderClan territory away from their own border. As they drew closer to 4 trees and past the Tule Bridge, all 3 cats paused to scan the slope. The breeze had dropped, and the air was still and heavy with the scent of cats. WindClan and RiverClan. Brambleclaw mewed quietly to Dustpelt. Older Warrior nodded. "They're allowed to go down to the river," he reminded them. "There's no sign that they've crossed our border." "So there," Squirrelpaw couldn't resist adding. Brambleclaw shrugged, telling himself that he could rather be proved wrong. He didn't want trouble with WindClan. Dustpelt was moving off again toward 4 trees when Brambleclaw caught another scent. WindClan again, but much stronger and fresher than before. Not daring to call out, he signaled frantically to Dustpelt with his tail, angling his ears in the direction where he thought the scent was coming from. Dustpelt crouched down in the long grass and signaled to his companions to do the same. "Please, StarClan," Brambleclaw begged, "don't let Squirrelpaw make a smart remark." But the apprentice remained silent, flattening herself to the ground and staring at the clumps of bracken that Brambleclaw had indicated. For a while, the only sound was the slap and murmur of the river nearby. Then there was a dry, rustling sound, and a mottled brown cat peered out of the bracken, before creeping into the open a couple tail lengths onto the ThunderClan side of the border. Brambleclaw recognized Mudclaw, the WindClan deputy. He was followed by one Whisker and a small dark gray cat Brambleclaw had never seen before. An apprentice, he guessed, carrying a vole in his jaws. Glancing back, Mudclaw murmured, "Head for the border. I can smell ThunderClan." "I'm not surprised," Dustpelt growled, rising up out of the grass. Mudclaw recoiled and drew his lips back in a snarl. At once, Brambleclaw leaped up to stand beside his clanmate, and Squirrelpaw dashed up to her mentor's other side. "What are you doing on our territory?" Dustpelt demanded. "As if I need to ask." "We're not stealing prey," Mudclaw retorted. "Then what's that?" Squirrelpaw asked, flicking her tail toward the vole that the apprentice was carrying. "It's not a ThunderClan vole," one Whisker explained. "An old friend of Firestar's." He looked thoroughly embarrassed to be caught like this on ThunderClan territory. "It ran across the border from RiverClan." "Even if that's true, you're stealing it from RiverClan," Brambleclaw pointed out. You're allowed to drink from the river, not to take prey. The gray-black apprentice dropped the bowl and launched himself across the grass at Brambleclaw. "Mind your own business," he spat. He barreled into Brambleclaw and knocked him over. Brambleclaw let out a surprised yell as the apprentice's teeth closed in the loose skin on his neck. Twisting his body, he managed to score his claws down the other cat's shoulder and felt strong hind paws scrabbling at his belly. With a screech of fury, he tore his neck free and dived for his opponent's throat. As his teeth found their mark, Brambleclaw caught a glimpse of Windwhisker aiming a blow with his paw. He braced himself to fight both cats at once, before he realized that the Windclan warrior had batted the apprentice away and was standing over him, rage smoldering in his eyes. "That's enough, Crowpaw," he snarled. "Attacking a ThunderClan warrior when we're trespassing on their territory? What next?" Crowpaw shot him a furious look through his narrow eyes. "He called us thieves!" And he was right, wasn't he? Windwhisker turned to Dustpelt, who was standing a few fox lengths away. As Brambleclaw scrabbled to his feet, he saw that the ThunderClan warrior had thrust himself in front of Squirrelpaw, preventing her from joining the fight. "I'm sorry, Dustpelt," Windwhisker went on. "It is a RiverClan vole, and I know we shouldn't have taken it. But there's hardly any prey in our own territory. Our elders and kids are hungry, and..." He stopped as if he thought he had already said too much. "What will you do now?" "The vole is between you and RiverClan," Dustpelt meowed coldly. "I see no need to tell Firestar about this, unless it happens again. Just get out of her territory and stay out." Mudclaw nudged Crowpaw to his paws. The Windclan deputy still looked furious at being found out, and Brambleclaw noticed that he had not added his apology to Windwhisker's. Without a word, he headed for the border, with Windwhisker close behind him. Crowpaw hesitated, and with his defiant glance he snatched up the vole and streaked after his clanmates. "I suppose we'll never hear the last of that," Squirrelpaw spat at Brambleclaw. Her eyes glittered with annoyance. "Happy now you've been proved right." "I didn't say a word," Brambleclaw protested. Squirrelpaw didn't reply, but stalked off with a tail in the air. Brambleclaw looked after her with a sigh. He could much rather the incident had never happened. His fur pricked with a sense of impending disaster. Clans were becoming so thirsty and desperate that even decent cats like Windwhisker were prepared to trespass, steal, and lie. Heat lay over the forest with the weight of a huge, choking pelt, and it seemed as if every living thing was waiting for a storm to break. Would this be trouble that StarClan had foretold? The next few days and nights, as the moon waned and the merest scratch in the sky, seemed never-ending to Brambleclaw. When he thought of what might happen at Four Trees when he went to meet Tawnypelt, he felt every hair in his pelt rise up with dread. Would the other clan cats come, and what exactly would be revealed at midnight? Perhaps StarClan themselves would come down and speak with them. At last, the night came when there was almost no moon at all, but the stars of Silverpelt glittered so brightly that Brambleclaw had no difficulty in finding his way through the gorse tunnel and up the ravine. Leaves rustled as he brushed through the undergrowth from one patch of shade to the next, trying to tread lightly as if he were creeping up on a mouse. Other ThunderClan warriors might be out late, and Brambleclaw did not want to be seen, nor to explain where he is going. He had not told any cat about his dream, and he knew that Firestar would not approve of his going to meet with cats of the other clans at Four Trees when he was not protected by the full moon truce. The air was cool now, but there was a dusty scent in the air, rising from the parched earth. Plants were drooping or lay withering on the ground. The hoar forest cried out for rain like a starving kit, and it did not come soon. It would not only be WindClan who was short of water. When Brambleclaw reached 4 trees, the clearing was empty. The sides of the great rock glimmered with starshine, and the leaves of the 4 oak trees rustled gently overhead. Brambleclaw shivered. He was so used to seeing the hollow full of cats that it seemed more daunting than before, so much bigger. With so many unexplained shadows, he could almost imagine that he had stepped into a mystical world of StarClan. He padded across the clearing and sat at the base of the great rock. His ears were pricked to catch the smallest sound, and every nerve from ears to tail tip was stretched with anticipation. Who would the other cats be? As moments slipped by, his excitement was replaced with anxiety. Not even Tawny Pelt had arrived. Perhaps she changed her mind, but perhaps this was the wrong meeting place after all. At last he saw movement in the bushes about halfway up the side of the hollow. Brambleclaw tensed. The breeze was blowing away from him, so he could not pick up the scent. From the direction it was coming, it could have been either a RiverClan or WindClan cat. He followed the movement with his eyes as far as a clump of bracken at the top of the slope. The fronds waved wildly, and a cat stepped into the clearing. Brambleclaw stared, frozen for a heartbeat, then sprang to his paws, his neck fur bristling with fear. Squirrel Paw! That is the end of chapter 4. I am going to take another break, and then we will come back and read the last chapter for the stream. Be right back. And I'm back. You guys ready for the last chapter of the stream? Chapter 5. Brambleclaw stalked off, stiff-legged across the clearing until he stood face to face with the apprentice. "Just what do you think you're doing here?" he hissed. "Hi, Brambleclaw." Squirrelpaw tried to sound calm, but her sparkling eyes betrayed her excitement. "I couldn't sleep, and I saw you leaving, so I've been following you." She gave a little purr of delight. "I was good, wasn't I? Never knew I was there all the way through the forest." That was true, though Brambleclaw could have died rather than tell her he was impressed. Instead, he let out a low growl. For 2 mouse tails, he felt like springing at her, the ginger she-cat. Claw the smirk expression off her face. "Why can't you mind your own business?" The she-cat narrowed her eyes. "It's any cat's business when a clan warrior sneaks out of camp at night." "I wasn't sneaking," Brambleclaw protested guiltily. "Oh no," Squirrelpaw sounded scornful. "You leave camp, come straight up here to 4 trees, and sit waiting for ages, looking like you expect every warrior in the forest to jump out at you. Don't tell me you're just enjoying the beautiful night." "I don't have to tell you anything." Brambleclaw heard his voice grow desperate. All he wanted was to get rid of his annoying apprentice before any cats from the other clans arrived. She hadn't mentioned the dream, which meant she couldn't have had it as well. So she had no right to be here and find out the next part of the prophecy. If that was what was really going to happen. "This has got nothing to do with you, Squirrelpaw. Why don't you just go home?" "No." Squirrelpaw sat down and curled her tail around her front paws, glaring at Brambleclaw with wide green eyes. "I'm not leaving until I find out what's going on." Brambleclaw let out a snarl of sheer frustration, only to jump when a voice growled behind him. "What's she doing here?" It was Tawny Pelt, slipping out from behind the great rock. She padded across the clearing and narrowed her eyes at Squirrelpaw. "Thought we weren't going to tell any of the other cats." Brambleclaw felt his fur prickle. "I didn't tell her. She saw me leaving and followed me." "And it's a good thing I did." Squirrelpaw stood up and met Tinypaw's gaze, her ears flat against her head. "You creep out at night and come here to meet a Shadow Clan warrior. What's Firestar going to think about this when I tell him?" Brambleclaw's belly lurched uncomfortably. Perhaps he ought to tell Firestar about the dream right from the start, but it was too late now. "Listen," he meowed urgently. "Tawny Pelt isn't just a Shadow Clan warrior, she's my sister. You know that as well as any cat. We're not plotting anything." "Then why is all the secrecy?" Squirrelpaw demanded. Brambleclaw was searching for a reply when Tawny Pelt interrupted him, flicking her tail towards the slope. "Look!" Brambleclaw caught a glimpse of something gray moving along the bushes. And a heartbeat later, Feathertail and Stormfur stepped into the clearing. He glanced around warily, but as soon as Feathertail spotted the other cats, she raced across the clearing towards them. "I was right!" she exclaimed, skidding to a halt in front of Brambleclaw and the 2 she-cats. Her eyes widened, beginning to look puzzled and a little daunted. "Did you have the dream as well? Is it the 4 of us?" "Tawny Pelt and I had it," Brambleclaw replied. At the same moment, Squirrelpaw asked, "What dream?" "The dream from StarClan, telling us that there's trouble ahead." Feathertail sounded more uncertain still, and her gaze flicked tensely from cat to cat. "Did you both have the dream?" Brambleclaw asked, glancing at Stormfur and the RiverClan warrior, caught up with his sister. Stormfur shook his head. "No, only Feathertail." "It scared me so much," Feathertail confessed. "I couldn't eat or sleep or thinking about it. Stormfur knew something was wrong, and he pestered me so much that I told him I dreamed. We decided that I should come to 4 trees tonight at the new moon, and Stormfur wouldn't let me come by myself." She gave her brother's ear a friendly lick. "He didn't want me to be in danger, but I'm not, am I? I mean, we all know each other." Ren, hi! It's been ages. You're showing up on the last chapter. How you been? I hope you've been well. I haven't got to see you. I haven't got to see your art. I hope you're doing okay. First thing you send is just a silly face. I see how it is. Don't be so quick to trust every cat, Stormfur growled. I don't like meeting cats from other clans in secret like this. It's not what the warrior code tells us. We each had a message from StarClan telling us to come, Tawnypelt pointed out. Blue Star visited Brambleclaw, and Night Star came to me. And I saw Oakhart, Feathertail meowed. He said great trouble was coming to the forest, and I would have to meet with 3 other cats at the new moon to hear what Midnight tells us. I was told that too, Tawnypelt confirmed, with a twitch of her ears. At Stormfort, she added, I don't much like it either, but we should wait and see what StarClan wants. Oh, hi, Lone. Haven't seen you in here in ages either. Sussy baka. At midnight, I suppose, Stormfur meowed, glancing up at the stars. It must be nearly that now. Brambleclaw's heart sank as he noticed Squirrelpaw's eyes getting wider and wider. You mean that StarClan told all of you to meet here? The young she-cat burst out. And they say there's trouble coming? What kind of trouble? We don't know, Feathertail replied. At least, Oakhart didn't tell me. She trailed off, looking flustered. But Brambleclaw and Tawnypelt shook their heads to show that their dream cats hadn't shared this with them either. Stormfur's eyes narrowed. Your clanmate hasn't had the dream, he mewed to Brambleclaw. What's she doing here? You didn't have it either. Squirrelpaw wasn't afraid to stand up to the Rift Clan warrior. I have as much right to be here as you. Except I didn't invite you, Brambleclaw growled. Chase her off then, Tawnypelt suggested. I'll help. Squirrelpaw took a step toward the ShadowClan warrior, her fur fluffed out and her tail bristling. Just lay one paw on me. Brambleclaw sighed. If we chase her off now, she'll go straight to Firestar. He meowed. She's heard pretty much everything, so she might as well stay. Squirrelpaw gave a disdainful sniff and sat down again. She drew her tongue down her paw and calmly began to wash her face. Honestly, Brambleclaw, Tawnypelt growled. You should have been more careful. Letting an apprentice track you. What's going on? A new voice came from behind them, high-pitched and aggressive. This can't be right. Deadfoot said there would only be... God dang it. This can't be right. Deadfoot said there would only be 4 of us. Brambleclaw jumped and looked around. His eyes narrowed into a furious glare as he recognized the cat with the smoky gray black fur. Lean limbs and small, neat head. You! He spat. Standing a couple of fox lengths away was a Wind Clan apprentice, Crowpaw, who had trespassed on ThunderClan territory and stolen a bowl. Yes, me, he retorted, his fur bristling as if at any moment he might spring and finish off the bite. Tawnypelt pricked her ears. This is a Wind Clan cat, right? She looked at Crowpaw and up and down dismissively. Undersized specimen, isn't he? He's an apprentice, Brambleclaw explained. As Crowpaw, I am just messing up all sorts of now. But yeah, it has been a while. I guess enjoy yourselves while you two are here. He's an apprentice, Brambleclaw explained, as Crowpaw drew his lips back in a snarl. His name's Crowpaw. He glanced at Squirrelpaw, willing her to keep silent about the incident with the ball. He wanted WindClan brought to justice over the prey stealing, but properly at a gathering, not by provoking a fight here. After all, what they were doing here was already a long way outside the warrior code. Squirrelpaw twitched with the tip of her tail, but to Brambleclaw's relief, she said nothing. You had the dream too? Feathertail asked. Brambleclaw saw the anxiety begin to fade from her blue eyes, as if she were drawing courage from the growing certainty that the dreams were true. Crowpaw gave her a curt nod. I spoke with our old deputy, Deadfoot, he meowed. He told me to meet other cats at the new moon. Then that's one cat from each clan, replied Feathertail. We're all here. Now, we just have to wait for midnight, Brambleclaw added. You know what this is about? Crowpaw turned his back on Brambleclaw and appealed directly to Feathertail. If it were me, Squirrelpaw meowed before Feathertail could reply, I'd be a bit less quick to believe in these dreams. If there really was trouble on its way, do you think StarClan would come to you first before the clan leaders or medicine cats? Then how do you explain it? Brambleclaw asked. All the more defensive, he had felt exactly the same doubt Squirrelpaw was voicing now. Why else would we all have had the same dream? Maybe you've all been stuffing yourselves with too much fresh kill? Squirrelpaw suggested. Crowpaw whipped around with an angry hiss. Who asked you anyway? He demanded. I could say what I like, Squirrelpaw shot back at him. I don't need your permission. You're not even a warrior. Nor are you, the gray-black cat snapped. What are you doing here anyway? You didn't have a dream. No cat wants you here. Brambleclaw opened his jaws to defend Squirrelpaw, even though he had been annoyed with her following him. It was no business of Crowpaw's to tell her what to do. Then he realized that Squirrelpaw wouldn't thank him. With a ready tongue, she was quite capable of defending herself. I don't see them falling over themselves to welcome you, either, she growled. Crowpaw spat, his ears flattened and his eyes glaring fury. There's no need to get angry, Feathertail began. The small black cat ignored her, lashing his tail from side to side. He sprang at Squirrelpaw. An instant later, Brambleclaw leaped too, barreling into him and rolling him over before his claws could score down her flank. Back off, he hissed, pinning Crowpaw down with a paw on his neck. He could hardly believe that the WindClan apprentice would start a fight now, and they were waiting for a message from StarClan, and linked in the prophecy through their dreams. If StarClan had really chosen them for a mysterious destiny, they'd surely not fulfill it by shedding one another's blood. The light of the battle died from Crowpaw's eyes, though he still looked furious. Brambleclaw let him get up. He turned his back and stared to groom his ruffled fur. Thanks for nothing. Brambleclaw was hardly surprised to see that Squirrelpaw was glaring at him just as much as hostility as Crowpaw. I can fight my own battles. Brambleclaw let out a hiss of exasperation. You can't start fighting here. There are more important things to think about, and if these dreams are true, then StarClan wants the clans to work together. He glanced around the clearing, half hoping that a cat from StarClan would appear to tell them what they were supposed to be doing. Before a fight broke out that he couldn't stop, Silverpelt shone on a clearing empty of any cats but themselves. He could smell nothing but ordinary night scents, growing plants, and distant prey. He could hear nothing but the sigh of wind through the branches of the oaks. It must be after midnight now, Tawnypelt meowed. I don't think StarClan are coming. Feathertail turned to look all around the clearing, her blue eyes once more wide with anxiety. But they have to come. Why did we all have the same dream, if it wasn't true?
Then why is nothing happening? Tawny Pelt challenged her. Here we are, meeting at the new moon. Just as StarClan told us, we can't do any more. You were fools to come. Gopar gave all another unfriendly stare. The dreams mean nothing. There's no prophecy, no danger, and even if there were, the word code should be enough to protect the forest. He began to stalk across the clearing, the slope on the WindClan's side. His last words were flung over his shoulder. I'm going back to camp. Good riddance, Squirrel Paw yelled after him. He ignored her, and a moment later, he disappeared into the bushes. Tawny Pelt's right. Nothing is going to happen. Stormfur meowed. Might as well go, too. Come on, Feathertail. Just a minute, mewed Brambleclaw. Maybe you got it wrong. Maybe StarClan was angry just because of the fighting. You can't just pretend that nothing has happened. That none of us had those dreams. We have to decide what we're going to do next. What can we do? Tawny Pelt asked. She flicked her tail towards Squirrelpaw. Maybe she's right. Why would StarClan choose us and not our leaders? I don't know, but I think they have chosen us. Feathertail meowed gently. But somehow we haven't understood properly. Maybe they'll send us all another dream to explain. Maybe. The brother didn't sound convinced. Let's all try to come to the next gathering, Brambleclaw suggested. There might be another sign by then. Gopar won't know to meet us there, Feathertail murmured, glancing at the spot in the bushes where the WindClan apprentice had vanished. No loss, Stormfur remarked. But at his sister's anxious look, he added, we can keep an eye open for him when he comes to the river to drink. If we see him, we'll pass the message on. All right, that's decided, yelled Tawny Pelt. We meet at the gathering. And what do we tell our clans? Stormfur asked. It's against the warrior code to hide things from them. StarClan never said we had to keep the dream secret, Tawny Pelt put in. I know, but... Feathertail hesitated and went on. Just feel it's wrong to talk about it. Brambleclaw knew Stormfur and Tawny Pelt were right. He was already feeling guilty that he had said nothing about his dream to Firestar and Cinderpelt. At the same time, he shared Feathertail's instinct to keep it silent. I'm not sure, he meowed. Suppose our leaders forbade us to meet again. We could end up having to choose between obeying them or obeying StarClan. Aware of uneasy glances from the others, he went on earnestly. We don't know enough to tell them. Suppose we wait until the next gathering, at least. We might have other signs by then that will explain it all to us. Feathertail agreed at once, obviously relieved, and after a pause, Stormfur gave a small, reluctant nod. But only until the next gathering, Tawny Pelt meowed. If we haven't found out more by then, I'll have to tell Blackstar. He gave a huge stretch, her back arched and her forepaws extended. Right. I'm off. Brambleclaw touched noses with her in farewell, breathing in her familiar scent. It must mean something. That we were both chosen, brother and sister, he murmured. Maybe. Tawny Pelt's green eyes were unconvinced. The other cats aren't kin, though. Her tongue rasped once over Brambleclaw's ear, in a rare gesture of affection. StarClan was willing. I'll see you at the gathering. Brambleclaw watched her bound across the clearing before turning to Squirrelpaw. Come on, he meowed. I have things I want to say to you. Squirrelpaw shrugged and padded away from him, towards the ThunderClan territory. Saying goodnight to Feathertail and Stormfur, Brambleclaw headed up the slope after her. When he emerged from the hollow, a hot, clammy breeze was blowing in his face, ruffling his fur and turning back the leaves on trees. Clouds had begun to mass above his head, cutting off the light of Silverpelt. The forest was silent and the air felt heavier than ever. Brambleclaw guessed that the storm was on its way at last. As he began trotting down toward the stream, Squirrelpaw paused to wait for him. Her fur was relaxed on her spine now, and her green eyes shone. "That was exciting!" she exclaimed. "Brambleclaw, you have to let me come with you to the next meeting, please. I never thought I'd be part of a prophecy from StarClan." "You're not part of it," Brambleclaw meowed sternly. "StarClan didn't send you the dream." "But I know about it, don't I? If StarClan didn't want me involved, it would have kept me away from poor trees. Somehow." Squirrelpaw faced him, forcing him to halt, and gazed at him with pleading eyes. "I could help. I'd do everything you told me." Brambleclaw couldn't keep back a puff of laughter. "And hedgehogs might fly." "No, I will, I promise." Her green eyes narrowed. "And I wouldn't tell any cat. You can trust me on that, at least." For a few heartbeats, Brambleclaw returned her gaze. He knew that if she told Firestar what had happened, he would be in deep trouble. Her silence must be worth something. "Okay," he agreed at last. "I'll let you know if anything else happens, but only if you keep your mouth shut." Squirrelpaw's tail went straight up and her eyes blazed with delight. "Thank you, Brambleclaw." Brambleclaw sighed. Somehow, he'd sensed that he would be in even deeper trouble because of the bargain he had just made. They followed Squirrelpaw into the shadows that lay thickly under the trees, feeling a shiver of fear at the thought of what might be watching them, unseen. But the forest around him was no darker, more threatening than the half-offered prophecy. If the trouble that was coming to the forest was as serious as Bluestar had said, then Brambleclaw was in great danger of making a fatal mistake simply because he did not know enough. That was the end of chapter 5. So, it said that a sign would show up at midnight, and the only thing that happened was the huge gust of wind and humidity. And on the back, it says darkness, air, water, and sky will shake the forest to its roots. So I'm thinking there's multiple possibilities that this is definitely nature related. Either it could be a flood, a tornado, or possibly, I guess, a couple other things that involve that. Similar things. Yeah. It says shake the forest to its roots, so I would assume like a tornado or a flood. That is my guess of what's going to happen. Because with the fire, that is a complete natural disaster too. And this one said that they had to fight it, so I'm assuming that they're all going to have to band together in order to actually survive a flood or a tornado. That's my best guess, because, yeah. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Hope you guys enjoyed the 5 chapters. Of course, there's going to be another 5 chapters next week. And let's see if I have anyone that is currently live that I can even read out to. Let's see. Nope. No one really to read out to. Okay. Well, I will see you guys later. Have fun and have a wonderful rest of your evening/morning. Bye-bye.